everybody? Welcome to Clash Royale's RoyaleMSTRS Summer Clash Edition. We've reached the end, almost, AC. We're almost there. Today's our last day of qualifiers, and tomorrow is our big combined championship. Hello, everybody. I am Andrew Guy. I just introduced him a second ago. Joshua AC Sharon, our CRL West champion. How you doing, buddy? Today is an exciting day because when's the last time you played Heist mode?
Probably about 3 or 4 months ago. I was playing like a best of 3, and then somebody just sent a Heist game. So I don't play it very often, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, it's been a long time since there's been really like a reason to, like a tournament or something like that, but we're going to get into a lot of Heist. But first, we got a little bit of business to catch you guys up on what we're doing here at RoyaleMSTRS Summer Clash Edition. As you guys just heard, today is day 4 of our run. We've got one more day. That is tomorrow. We've done triple Elixir. We've done triple draft. Yesterday was sudden death, which was a lot of fun. And then today is Heist. Tomorrow we have our championship where the top 2 players from today will join the top 6 from the last 3 competitions, 2 from each of our individual formats for our grand championship tomorrow. And as you guys can see, tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun. 8 players, each one of them having their own specialty in our game modes, right? So the best of 3 matches will be single elimination to work through the bracket. You have triple Elixir, you got sudden death, and you got a mirror match. And then if you make it all the way to the finals tomorrow, you've got a best of 5, which is going to have all 4 of our game modes, plus that tricky mirror mode. AC, we've given away a lot of money, a lot more to be given away today and tomorrow. Let's talk about the dollars and cents of the thing. I mean, it is a Heist day.
You know, okay. All right, not bad. Today's competition is going to be another one of the open qualifiers. It's the 4th one. $3,500 is the total prize pool for the day. $1,500 going to first, $800 going to second, and both of those players will move on to the combination championship, which is what we will see tomorrow. $6,000 as the total prize pool, and then as always, $20,000 as the overall prize pool for this competition. So always a thank you for the money.
Yeah, I mean, 20 grand is a lot to be throwing out for all these fun game modes. And of course, as we mentioned, there's a few players that have already made their way through, and some big names out there, right? We've got some big names in the competition today. But as for our 6 that have already made it through, some names you might recognize. It was Muhammad Light, the GOAT, who came out strong in our very first day of competition. Over also was there, who played exceptional throughout the day. Then on our triple draft day, I think Momo fell in maybe 3rd or 4th place. It was all about Wallace and Adnan, both of them playing absolutely exceptional. And then yesterday, it was all Pedro and Kamagod. Pedro was kind of a favorite. He'd shown up a few times throughout. We were wondering when he was going to make it through. Obviously, one of our golden ticket holders at CRL. But Kamagod was a really impressive showing. It felt like he really locked down that sudden death format, had a Royal Giant deck that was absolutely dominant. And then today is Heist, which is going to be a lot of fun. We have 8 competitors here for our Heist mode and some names that you also might recognize. We'll get to them in just 1 second. I do think today with Heist is going to be a little different. You know, yesterday with sudden death, we were talking a lot about, will these decks be crazy? Will they be different? Honestly, they were pretty close to the meta. AC, I think today in Heist, because there's no Princess Towers, right? If you want a building on the board, you got to supply it as one of your 8 cards. I think we're going to see some really weird decks.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't know what we're going to do. We could see an all-out attack with air troops, and I don't know how many spells we're going to see where do you need to clear off the board, or do you need to try and win the board? So there's a lot of different ways to play it, and I don't know which one is the best one. So I got to say I'm very excited for today.
Yeah, let's introduce our players here for the day. 8 competitors are going to be coming out, trying their Heist mode. I was looking through Lucas's battle log because him and I are friends in-game, and I caught a couple. So we got Miniminter and Nicoco, 2 big names in the space. Obviously, Miniminter is someone who we expect to maybe do a little bit more than Nicoco, but he's been a little quiet over the last year. So let's see if either of them kind of set that pace for the rest moving forward to get to World Finals. Takuya was here yesterday. Dominic was also here earlier in the week, or earlier in the competition, one of our former World finalists from last year. And then we have Lucas going up against someone who I don't know. AC, I don't know if you know who Ale World is, but honestly, with a format like this, it's a great place for, you know, quote unquote no names to show up. Andres, RC, and Moha. AC, do you know any of those last 3, Andres, Moha, or Ale World, that are showing up here?
No, I do not. So yeah, we're gonna have a I mean, we're gonna learn today.
Yeah, we don't know who they are. We're about to get a big introduction, and you know what? That's the cool thing about Royale Masters. That's the cool thing about CRL. Pretty much every format now is all open. As long as you can make it through the qualifier, you can be on broadcast. You can be playing against the best in the world. Talking about some of the best in the world, we have some big ones in this. You know, Nicoco, Dominic, Lucas. But okay, so I was looking at Lucas's battle log, and the last couple decks I see are Expo, Drill with Miner and Bandit and Zap, okay? And then the one before that is Expo with Battle Ram, MK, Rascals, and Rage. And then before that is Expo, Royal Hogs, Night Witch. So I think we see a little bit of a trend here with Lucas. Maybe Expo is a good way to create some good offense. You know, I mean, some good defense. You know, it's a pretty healthy building in terms of how much HP it has. And then obviously it can kind of reach all sides of your part of the map. So I'm wondering if that's what Lucas's thought is. And then the other part, he's like, dude, you're putting my whole strategy on blast before we go live. The other part of it is that he's got tower-seeking win conditions, whether it's a Battle Ram or Royal Hogs. And then he's got some interesting bait cards in there, like the Minions, like the like the Minion Horde. So we'll see if any of that comes out here. And Mini-Minter and Nicoco starting things off. Nicoco going exactly what you said, AC, just going right to the skies.
Miner, it's, I mean, so I don't know my heist all that well, but I think that's like the max placement for a miner. So it's, or no,
right? I don't know if it can go. I think it actually can go all the way to the
okay,
tower,
that's what I was
but
thinking.
I do know what
yeah,
you're saying.
Okay, I was just making sure that it wasn't touchdown. Okay, now I'm ready too. We're all ready.
Oh wow, that's a big NATO. That was a really nice predictive NATO. It's gonna get some good sizzle. Wow, sizzle on that tower. Mini-Minter having some fancy footwork early on, and as you guys can see, evolutions are in the game, and both players have opted to go with evolution skeletons. Not exactly what I expected, AC, but you kind of understand the thought process behind it. If they get piled up on either side of the board, there's no buildings to help clean them up. You have to use one of your spells.
Right, skeletons actually do make sense in this game mode, so I like what I'm seeing out of both of them. Right now, Mini-Minter just going heavy defense. I was wondering if, because there's a couple of different ways to play where you have a mix or you have a certain way of going the air, but just going heavy defense for Mini-Minter, and I like that in our game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his cards, too, he's got really beefy cards. So not only is he heavy defense, but offensively, his opponent's going to have a lot of trouble cleaning up the board. You know, you look at Mini-Minter's, or Nicoco's options, and really the bats are kind of his best single-target DPS, period. So we'll see how much effect they have as this balloon is getting on top of tower again. That balloon needs a little bit more love and a few more shots in, but now we have at the bottom of your screen an Inferno and an E-Giant on tower. Almost no defense existing here for Nicoco as the E-Giant is still just hanging out. Second one comes down the lane, and I believe we might be seeing the end of game number 1 very soon, AC.
Yeah, Mini-Minter pouring it on right now, getting the heist down to 34-62, but Nicoco responding with the P.E.K.K.A. So, I mean, he technically has a chance. He's not going to lose his tower right now, but
yeah, I mean,
it's
I like
still
the
not a
extra
good
spend
spot.
there. Yeah, definitely not a good spot. Indeed, this Inferno Dragon is a pretty awesome X factor here for Mini-Minter. It's gotten on the heist. I keep wanting to say the tower, but you just called it the heist, and I actually really like that. It's gotten on the heist twice or 3 times already, and Nicoco, without any big spells, just has no way to deal with anything other than the Firecracker.
Yeah, Firecracker is so deadly in this vlog, coming out to take care of the skeleton.
And an Inferno to reset for Mini, 73-79 to 25-83. I mean, the one thing here is that, you know, for Mini, he doesn't have a lot of great ways to get on top of this balloon before it gets a few shots in. As you can see, every time the Firecracker comes down, the balloon gets a few shots, and usually the Executioner gets distracted. Slow speed, slow attack speed.
Yeah, right there, gets 3 shots and really just bringing himself back into the game. So fantastic push from him. And Nicoco, again, just going in. He not going to wait for his opponent to make a play and just making it himself.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. You know, you saw what happened when he kind of sat back. Mini-Minter was able to put together 2 decent-sized pushes. One of them got stopped pretty quickly with the P.E.K.K.A., but that first one with the Inferno and the Electro Giant really put in a lot of work. Now we're seeing Inferno on top of Balloon. Bats behind him, maybe try to distract, but the Executioner is there for a nice cleanup. And now Mini's starting to build a good push on this left-hand side. Actually, both lanes.
Yeah, it's really... Oh, wow. It's the splash on top of the tower instead. Right now... Yeah. His offensive pushes are just... I mean, he hasn't even been able to get an offensive push for a while, but he's finally getting them right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of what you were saying before might really work, of just like you go heavy defensive, and then you've got a big unit like a balloon, or not like a balloon, like an E-Giant or like a lava or like a golem to clean things up. Just kind of send it down the lane, which, you know, Nicoco kind of looking for it with the P.E.K.K.A, but still having a lot of trouble with dealing with those E-Giants.
Bloom coming down, not going to be enough though. 26-14 to 11-27, and with 1500 HP, needing to get damaged on top of the tower, it's not going to happen.
I got to admit, that was actually super fun. I didn't know what to expect when it was like, oh yeah, day 4 is heist matches. I was like, oh man, all right, we'll see how that goes. But it's such a different look at Clash Royale than you and I ever get over the years, whether it's 2v2, even throughout this whole tournament. It's just been the same thing, right? 3 towers, even if it's sudden death, only one of them has to fall. Yeah, you don't get to pick your cards. Yeah, you do. More whatever. Heist is so radically different that you're not going to see any meta decks, and the play style is just, I don't know. It's like you have to forget how to play Clash Royale.
Yes. It definitely feels different than Clash Royale, and it's a lot of fun. And after 45 seconds, then I started to enjoy casting. The first 45 seconds, I was really just trying to get my feet. It's a weird game to watch.
Yeah, I mean, because the strategy behind like how you play and how you cast is so radically different that you're sitting there and just going, all right, I guess it's just like hyper aggressive offense from one player, and then the other one's just going to play defense the whole time. I mean, it translates a very little bit, but I think in terms of what we're starting to see develop, I mean, it is only game number 1. I think what we recognize is, you know, having a big spell is a tough pull. It doesn't seem like that is the favored option, but it does seem like having a tanky tower-seeking unit could be good, and then heavy defensive cards. Like, the Executioner makes a lot of sense. I've seen it in a few decks that people have played because, you know, you don't want to have to always use your spell just to clean up, like, bait troops, or if it's something like minions or minion horde, and you don't have arrows, and you just have a small spell like Rage or Zap, you could be in trouble. So I'm thinking you got to have a big tower-seeking unit, right? We learned that from looking at Lucas's stuff. You got to have heavy defense. That was the thing that looked like Nicoco was struggling with the most. He didn't really have a lot of defensive prowess. He just had the P.E.K.K.A, really. That was basically it. And then, I don't know, I guess the rest of it we'll just kind of have to learn along the way. Inferno Dragon maybe a little bit broken because people aren't going to have lightning.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so hard to take care of an Inferno Dragon when you don't have a tower helping. So Inferno Dragon just seems to be the play. And then the other thing is, I feel like Royal Recruits are just going to be really good in this game mode.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So anytime it's possible to just throw them in one of your decks, I feel like that's what you should be doing.
That's actually not a bad call. I mean, what if you just went with a true meta deck of like Royal Recruits, Royal Hogs with Flying Machine and Zappies or something? Just like really annoying, control the board. No one's going to have that much spell power to deal with all of it. When you get into double Elixir, you can start to double cycle Flying Machines, or even if you get like, I don't know, maybe Mighty Miner in there, you can then have a 3-card cycle. I don't know. There's a lot of potential and only one game in the books. So really anything can happen here as we're about to hop into game number 2. Mini Mints are up 1 game. Nicoco down, looking to come back. AC, what would you run if you were playing in heist mode?
What would I run? I mean, I think it would just have to be the Royal Hogs, Royal Recruits. I think that a deck where you dominate the board and you can just have them consistently cycled in the back, I just think that's the best way to play it.
Do you think a building is like necessary? Like, if you were going to run that Royal Recruits deck, would you want to run it with, you know, like Goblin Cage? You know, just so you do have something to bring something to that building first before it gets on your tower. and then also that just reminded me of the first time I ever played Heist. I had like an Inferno Dragon on my Heist safe, and I just didn't kill it because it had like a sliver of HP left.
Right.
And, and then it just took the tower, and I was like, what the heck just happened? And I like watched the replay, and I was like, oh right, yeah, this is not a tower, this is just a safe. So
yeah, that's great. The first time I ever played Heist, I also did not know how to play. So there was a while where there you go. Yeah, there was a while. Actually, it probably wasn't even just the first game. The first 2 or 3 games, I just didn't understand how it worked. No matter, it just didn't compute.
It's one of those things where you play the game for so long that you're just used to that happening. You're used to like how many hits it takes to take a unit off the board, and that always assists with how you play your defense and how you use your elixir efficiently. And then also just to look here really quickly at the way that the seeding worked. Miniminter was our #1 seed, then Ailworld, then Andres RC, then Takuya. So it was actually a lot of the like lesser known guys that were up at the top. I mean, Miniminter obviously the exception. And then we have Dominic, Moha, Lucas, and then Nicoco was actually our 8th seed. And I think the way that worked is that I think they play the qualifier, and then I don't know if they play a match after that, but either way, it was Miniminter who came out on top in the qualifiers and on top in game #1 as we hop into game #2 here of Heist mode. Which is a good card too. I like that. She's annoying. She's really annoying to deal with.
Yeah, it's super difficult to just focus on her when she's just chilling on the other side of the board. A tornado definitely is going to help that cause, though.
All right, so Nicoco just sending this E-Giant down the lane. Miniminter has a lot of frustrating, heavy HP units to deal with, but then obviously, as you guys know, with Heist, there's usually not a lot of spells, so those bats from Nicoco can continue to just get insane value on all things Cannon Cart and Barbarian.
Coco waiting, and he's going to respond with a Cannon Cart. He will need more troops, just the skeletons. It's not going to be the evolution skeleton, so a lot of damage, but the Cannon Cart gets taken out, so still a good graveyard overall for him.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Graveyard was another one of the win conditions I was kind of thinking about as I was getting ready for our broadcast today. Just like, is Graveyard a good pull? Because you can always just get it immediately on top of tower, but then will your tanks be there? It feels like you should be able to get a tank there. So, I don't know. I even wonder if you start to see something like crazy with like super high HP units and then Graveyard in Heist mode. Like, you know, like an E-Giant Graveyard deck or Golem Graveyard, some weird stuff like that. We'll see as Nicoco ends up evening things out and then some. 87-60 to 10-7-22.
And right there, Miniminter responding with the barbs before the snowball, so not really sure what that was about. The snowball would have been able to save a lot of HP on the tower.
So evolved barbs plus graveyards. Skeletons evolve to try to clean up. They actually get cleaned up by the evolved barbs. Not a lot of damage comes in, and if I'm Miniminter, I think I have to start reassessing how I want to attack, because the last 2 graveyards, the first one was pretty good, the second one was a lot easier to control, and I imagine as we keep moving forward, that's going to continue to be the story, since Nicoco might have figured out how exactly he wants to defend.
Yeah, and Nicoco, I mean, he's making some very solid pushes, and Miniminter is really just struggling to take care of these Inferno Dragons. Right now, Miniminter, there's been multiple times where his defense, the first 2 troops that he puts on the board, are just going to be fodder for the E-Giant. They're not actually getting any value.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, man. This Inferno Dragon getting an insane amount of value, running away from the Executioner just long enough because it's following the barbs, and then a great E-Giant in front keeps this Inferno alive for almost a minute. Honestly, that Inferno was on the board.
Another Cannon Cart cycled in the back for Nicoco. And Nicoco, we were talking about it with no big spell. He's definitely running no big spell. Miniminter, he's probably not running a big spell either. He still has the potential to be running poison or fireball or something like that, but there's a good chance that he isn't.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what that last card is. Obviously, with these Heist decks, there's no way to actually know. And then look at that one Larry, just going to town. Top of your screen, putting in the work.
Wow.
80-ish damage a hit. Does Miniminter even know it's there? A bat's going to go join the party. You love to see it. And finally, an executioner comes down 64-58 to 92-33. And that's exactly what you and I were just talking about. Doesn't matter if it's an Inferno or a Skeleton. There's nothing there to help out. You're safe.
Cannon Cart, I mean, it feels like every time Mini Minter, Nicoco always is just cycling Cannon Cart in the back. It doesn't matter how much Mini Minter has on the board. It's just going to be Cannon Cart and then E-Giant to tank. And he's just going to defend well every single time.
And I think the other part of this for Mini is that he has to save that snowball for bats, period. That's the only thing that snowball can do, which is really unfortunate because now he has no way to stop that Inferno Dragon. But as you guys just saw at the bottom of your screen, that Inferno or that graveyard was basically stopped by just bats.
Yeah, and right now, Nicoco, with a heavy lead, 20 seconds left in OT, will be able to bring it to game number 3 if he can just hold on.
And that looks like that's going to be the story here as the graveyard does come down. Then you have the pre-snowball. Bat's going to come in right afterwards and a Rage to defend. Then the NATO. Nicoco recognizing that, you know, if he takes a few hits, he could actually be in danger, but will not. 80-41. To 64 and some change. We're going to game number 3.
Yeah, I am not able to recognize how much damage a graveyard push will do. Like, I thought he cleaned it up perfectly, and I thought he wasn't going to get a single shot in the tower.
Right.
He still got like 600 HP worth of damage. So, I mean, it can get pretty crazy at the end of the game.
Yeah, that's like something I was noticing there too, man. At the very end, it was like, it felt like Nicoco was in a lot of control, and it felt like Mini had one good graveyard at the beginning, and then he was kind of just trying to figure out to push all the way through. But then, yeah, that last graveyard, it felt like it just kept going, and Nicoco had to keep spending more and more on it. I don't know if Graveyard is the way to go, and if Graveyard is the way to go, I think you might have to run Poison, right? I mean, we just saw how brutal, you know, evolved Skellies and just bats can do, right? That's 3 Elixir to clean up a graveyard, and then you can just play whatever you want up front to stop those tanks. So I think if you run GY and Heist, you might really need Poison, but the problem with Poison is how much value does it get as units are moving all the way down the board?
Yeah. I feel like Poison should be good, but I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I feel like we would have seen more big spells if big spells were the way to go. So
yeah,
I just think that maybe it's not the right choice, just because, I mean, if you have the bats and the snowballs, or the bats and the skeletons, you're always going to be able to defend. So maybe you just shy away from the big spells. I don't know. There's a lot of metagame with that right there.
I know. I mean, it's like we said before. It's kind of funny just trying to like learn the strategies and learn the best decks. Like, what is the actual meta? How do you do it? And yeah, you see people here talking about the Larry. Yeah, let's see. The Mighty Miner is Joel Street responds every time it switches targets. Yes, that is true. Yeah, Mighty Miner is it almost feels like maybe not the champion to go with right now. Honestly, it could be. I mean, really, any of the other 3 almost have exciting potential, right? The Golden Knight, maybe the least, because it's like the idea of it dashing really doesn't seem like anything crazy would happen. But since we're not seeing a lot of big spells, the AQ could be really great. She puts in a lot of single target DPS. She can deal with those E-Giants. She can deal with the balloons, whatever it is. She's probably not going to get spelled off of the board. And then the Skeleton King is also interesting because you have so many units that are down all the time. It can stack souls, and then that baity aspect of being able to basically have a graveyard on the move could maybe be effective, but I don't know. That seems like a lot that has to go on. And also the Skeleton Kings, like the single target DPS is the other thing I've noticed is like really important. Inferno Dragons also seem to be kind of an X factor. We said that in game 1, but here in game 2, you saw how dominant it was.
Yeah, I really like the idea. I really like the idea of Skeleton King and Archer Queen. Both of them have a lot of potential to be really, really solid. I think I would have to lean towards the Archer Queen just because of what you were saying. You know, the fact that she can clean up so many things and then go invisible, where you can take 1500 HP worth of damage on top of the tower, but then you can go invisible and then keep her alive too. That's going to be really deadly for the counter pushes.
Yeah, and then like the potential to have her go invisible when she's already across the bridge and then get a tank in front of her, right? That's something that we're usually not used to in our regular game mode. So a lot of potential there. We'll see if champions start to show up a little bit more, or at least the varied champions. And then the other part of it is the evolution, right? We've seen everything except for the two most dominant evolution cards, right? We've seen evolved Skellies, we've seen evolved Barbs. We haven't seen evolved Firecracker, I don't think, and we haven't seen evolved RG, obviously. I feel like Firecracker could be a good way to go.
Yeah. I feel like we should have seen it.
We did see it game one, but it wasn't evolved. I think Mini ran evolved Skellies instead of the evolved Firecracker.
I feel like we should still do evolved Firecracker in that scenario.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the two games that we've played, there's only one spell out of the 32 cards that could actually take care of the Firecracker in the arrows that Nicoco ran in game one, which was fortunate because that's when Mini ran his Firecracker. But the other part of it is that if she's evolved, there is no way to kill her, it seems like. No one has ran. I don't think that NATO and Rage will do it. That doesn't seem like it's enough damage. And then obviously, everyone else, Log and NATO won't do it. So who knows? Maybe Firecracker ends up being I think Firecracker should be out there, right? She's so annoying to deal with. She can stay on the board forever. I mean, we saw that Inferno stay on the board forever, and the Inferno Dragon doesn't even have like the weird targeting system. So the other thing that I've noticed is that it's taking our players a lot longer to build their decks, because they're not just going and clicking on pre-made decks. I think they're trying to like learn from what just happened in the previous game, and then now taking their sweet time, Mini and Nicoco, to like figure out what 8 cards are best.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel like and I think that we are going into game right now, so perfect.
We saw the Cannon Cart kind of evolution, right? They both started running Cannon Cart because it's such a frustrating card. Witch came out. Now we're seeing Furnace. So people still really trying to figure things out here in Heist.
So I like that Mini-Minters going in with the building. Oh, the double building as well. So I really like this from Mini-Minter. And okay. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of impressive work from both players.
The double spawners. That could be so annoying to deal with. Nice NATO there from Nicoco to get that sizzle and burn. Look at that. It's still alive because there's nothing there. Wow. I like, again, I forgot again. I was like, why isn't it dying?
See, this is actually really cool. We're actually going to see a somewhat massive counter push. The Zappies and the Firecracker, an evolved Firecracker. So it's going to be a little bit of damage on the left side.
It feels like Mini literally just listened to the broadcast and was like, I can do all the things that you guys just talked about. I can have the Firecracker that's evolved. I can have buildings. I can have the recruits and Zappies to control the board. So pretty fun at least. And then honestly, you look at the damage that's done. Nicoco had to have a Mighty Miner and some fancy footwork to get that to 4498. And Mini off of, like you said, AC, just a good counter push with those recruits and Zappies almost evens things up.
Right here, one of the Barbs surviving. Going to try and take out the E-Giant. Not going to happen just yet, though. Zappies on top of the E-Giant and on top. Actually, none of them are targeting the Mighty Miner.
Mini's in trouble here. Mini's in a lot of trouble.
Wow,
he has no way to reset this Inferno. That's it.
Wow. Good game coming out. Just needs a few more ticks. And boom, Nicoco taking the 3 heist crown.
20 minutes to get through the first 2 games between them making decks, us introducing the show, and then a quick 1-minute game to close things out. Nicoco, I mean, that's the thing. That NATO and that reset, that one Spear Goblin just could not put in enough work. There's no damage there to take it off the board. I honestly think it's one of those things where Mini just he has to remember. He's like, oh yeah, you know, it happened earlier with the skeleton, and then the bat came behind, got a good amount of damage in there, and then there at the end, you know, great Mighty Miner work and an awesome counter push from Nicoco. It's a bummer because I wanted to see Mini's deck maybe a little bit more. I don't know if the triple spawner, though, was the way to go.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of potential to win with that deck. He just couldn't play the Royal Recruits until later on in the game. I think it was pretty clear that you just defend with Zappies and then actually defend the 3 Musketeers instead of trying to get the recruits on top of them. So I think there was a lot of potential for that deck to work. It's just no one has practice with this game mode. So How are you supposed to know?
Yeah, so it's going to be a short trip here for Mini Minter. Even though he does get his qualifying money, he will not be one of the 2 players that move on from today to our combined championship. And Nicoco, E-Giant, Inferno, Bats, Evolve Skellies, 3 Musketeers, Mighty Miner, and then Rage NATO. I really like this deck. There's 2 Sizzle cards, right, that can do an insane amount of damage on any tank other than the E-Giant, and then the Inferno can actually probably do damage on the E-Giant if it's far enough away. And then you got the 3 Musketeers to kind of give you board control and a lot of single target DPS. And then the E-Giant has proven to be a really good win condition because it can just get dropped right into a push, right? It seems like that has been really effective every time, especially when those pushes contain like a bunch of bait cards. It's a really great way to kind of reset that Elixir deficit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved the E-Giant and the Inferno Dragon overall. Those are my 2 like must-have cards at this point. I feel like they just dominate in so many. I mean, there's very few cards in the game that win against those cards one-on-one. Minions don't even beat Inferno Dragons on a one-on-one at the bridge. So that's how strong the Inferno Dragon is.
Yeah, and then I think the other one is the cannon cart. The cannon cart is just a really frustrating card to deal with. It's your way to kind of get a cheap building on the board. And, you know, we saw Nicoco and Mini kind of both cycle them in game number 2. It ended up being Mini that picked up game number... oh, no, it was game number 1 that he picked up. It was game number 2 where they both busted out the cannon carts, and then that was where he struggled. Nicoco just ran it back. I mean, he seems like he's found the deck that he wants to run 2 games in a row. He gets 2 wins in a row, and now we're moving on to our second set here of the day. And this is what I love about Heist Mode is you're going to see something probably completely different. Takuya, top of your screen, Dominic at the bottom. We'll see if Dominic goes to what he's known for, which is playing in the skies. He starts off with a Barb Barrel.
Mini P.E.K.K.A in response from Takuya, and Mini P.E.K.K.A makes sense. It's very high DPS, and actually I love that he's doing the E-Drag. One of the few cards in the game that actually beats the Inferno Dragon one-on-one, and yeah, that's a great adjustment from just watching the opening set.
Yeah, I mean, already here for Takuya, you see he's got 2 abilities to get on top of units with splash damage through the Inferno, or excuse me, the E-Dragon. Oh, now 3, the Bowler and the Firecracker. So we'll see if he actually ends up running a spell or not, or if it's just one small spell or something like a NATO. Because what he's got right now with the cards, it looks like it should just maybe be NATO, and then it's just a ton of support.
Right now, E-Giant going down the lane, Mini P.E.K.K.A on the left to clean everything up, and should be able to get it all up nicely.
There's the NATO, and that's exactly what you need.
Yeah, that NATO is nasty. Dominic responding with the barbs, but that's going to be tower down to 10,000 HP.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the luxury of Heist is that the tower does have so much HP, as you guys can see top of your screen, 12,060, that you can kind of actually survive an E-Giant being on your tower for several seconds, and then not have to overspend units that just go right into it and die. As you guys can see, Barbs have a decent counter push, but then there's that pesky Inferno Dragon, and Takuya just taking all the frustrating cards in the game and putting them in right behind that E-Giant.
Yeah, I really like both of these players' decks. Takuya on the one side, just looking at the most annoying possible cards, and then Dominic going 3 Musketeers plus the Evoed Barbs plus Mother Witch. That's just really 2 really great decks from our players.
We see a nice Miner to distract the Bowler, but then a NATO pulls out for Takuya to make sure that that doesn't become too much of a problem on the right-hand side. And then that Firecracker Evolved is going to put in a ton of work on this push. Barbs and the Mighty Miner, absolutely nothing. And then you see here, the E-Dragon does get on tower.
Really well placed 3 Musketeers, but you have to stop that Firecracker, and it does get stomped, but not before it gets one shot on one of the Musketeers. That's that damage you didn't have to take. For some reason, he was a little more delayed than he probably should have been with the Barb Barrel.
Yeah, a little slow on the draw there, just trying to figure out if that was the correct decision to make. And then, once again, we see that E-Giant just dropped right on top of whatever push it is. I was talking about bait, but there you saw 3 Musketeers right on top of it. And I do like the idea of a Mother Witch. She could be so annoying, but the problem with the matchup that Dominic has here is that he just doesn't have a lot of small baity cards that are actually going to pile up piggies.
Yeah, that's very true. Not really providing. It's not providing much value whatsoever. And right here, both troops surviving on 1 HP. Tough situation for Dominic. He cleans it up nicely.
The bar barrel coming out to try to just clean everything up. It's one of those things again where you're like, I'm not used to this game mode. The bar barrel is not going to do enough to take out a firecracker and a Inferno or E-Dragon. Just need that support from the Princess Towers.
And Dominic is just cycling everything in the back, and really Takuya has just been defending. I mean, it feels like he's been defending the entire game, but at the same time, Takuya is the one with the damage lead. So just everything at play right now, and Dominic does not really have a way to get an off push going. I would never be afraid if I'm Takuya when I'm defending.
That's a good point that you make there. Dominic does seem like he's just having a hard time breaking on through, but right now building a bit of a push on this right-hand side. That mini P.E.K.K.A putting in a lot of work. Obviously, the firecracker on the other side, really annoying for Dominic to deal with. So you see that cannon cart up high, maybe searching for something, trying to get to that firecracker.
And there we go. The bar's on top of the tower. He was waiting for this the entire time. I cannot believe he was able to pull it off and get the tower all the way down to 6096.
The barbs, I mean, with 10 seconds remaining, that's going to be just enough. He goes miner to the outside to clean up that firecracker, and this Three Musketeers going to be more than enough to stop that E-Giant. And Dominic, with a come-from-behind victory, the barbs piling up at the end, getting on top of that safe, and stealing this game number 1.
Yeah, the Three Musketeers and the Mother Witch and the barbs all really working together towards the same goal, and that goal was just make it to triple elixir, get 1 evoed barbs push up, and it should be game over just like that. And he also did a great job of not allowing the bowler to get a lot of value. The miner in the back left was able to take the aggro of the bowler, and they were able to get on top of the tower.
That was kind of the name of the game for Dominic a lot of the time, was just getting something to distract those troops so that the actual DPS troops like the, mainly, honestly, the Musketeers, but also the Mighty Miner and the Barb, so that they could get on through. A lot of that was just dealing, like you said, with that bowler and the Firecracker. You know, the Inferno Dragon felt like a lot less of a factor, I think, maybe because there was just so much more on the board. I'm not exactly sure what that was. And then with Takuya's deck, when you look at it, yes, there's a lot of really annoying cards. It just felt like it started to lose synergy, or maybe it was the matchup. I mean, because you have the Firecracker, you have the Inferno. No, we'll ignore the Inferno. You have the Firecracker, the E-Dragon, and the Bowler, plus the E-Giant and the NATO. You have so much control and splash damage, but it was just not able to be, like, focused in the correct way. I don't really understand where the trouble was there, but that's, again, why Dominic is such a great player, is he kind of recognized the situation he was in. Like you said, just needed to extend the game to get to more Elixir, just defended forever. I mean, kind of they both did, right? It was Dominic defending, and then his defense would become a counter push, and that was kind of just like a cycle, and then he broke through at the very end with 15 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should have seen Takuya just go more aggressive earlier on in the game, because it felt like every time he was defending very easily, but if he's defending so easily, he could have gone more aggressive. And so maybe we should have seen that out of him in game number 1.
So very similar looks from both players so far. Dominic going right back to the Mother Witch Miner and Bar Barrel. I was gonna say I'm a fan of that Miner, but then it ended up turning around, so almost a fan of that Miner, as this Inferno Dragon will need a little bit of attention.
Right there, Dominic again going in with 3 Musketeers, repeating the same deck, I believe. We'll have to wait for the next 4 cards, but that should be the case. And Takuya coming out with the Spark in response.
Takuya looking like running the exact same deck with the first 3 cards, and then you see a bit of a swerve here on the last 2, Sparky and Fireball, recognizing that the big problems that he had in game number 1 were just with those big pileups of units that the Firecracker could not get on through. So now a Sparky shot and a Fireball should help remedy those ails. There we go. What is happening?
Barbs to surround the Sparky, played fairly well. I don't even know if you can get a keep 4 of them alive whenever I do it, I only keep one of them alive. So, so I feel like 3 barbs still being up on the board is pretty decent surround.
I'm pretty sure I've had barbs go up against Sparky maybe less than 5 times in my several years of playing Clash Royale.
Really?
Yeah, I
use
just don't play
that
barbs a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So 3 HP separates these two as both of them kind of just hanging out in single elixir, feeling each other out. Dominic probably still trying to see what the rest of the cards that Takuya has to offer are. And this Mighty Miner on top of the Sparky, because of that pushback when the Sparky shoots, will actually stay alive. Kind of an interesting interaction you probably don't see a whole lot in regular game modes.
One Musketeer on the right side. Oh, okay. Keeping the Sparky alive. So I'm okay with that, but really, the right side is the push that you're worried about anyways, so kind of shocked to see him over-defend the left side.
Yeah, exactly my thoughts. It doesn't feel like a whole lot came out of it, though, in either direction, but I was with you. A little surprised that that's where all the elixir went. I was thinking that Fireball then would have been really nice to have to deal with the push on the right-hand side, but Takuya had it all locked up as that evolved Firecracker gets taken off the board. And these 3 Musketeers, I mean, 3 Musketeers starting to show some pretty good potential throughout the rest of the day. Really frustrating, super good DPS, and if you're splitting them, you're never going to get good spell value, although that was nice for Takuya, Fireball plus Evo, plus Fireball plus a Firecracker shot.
And this game is kind of what I expected to see throughout. I mean, it's really what I expected to see for today, where neither player can just make it to the tower whatsoever. It's 11-6-6-8 to 11-8-5-8. Both players just cannot touch these towers.
2 very different comments from our YouTube chat. We got Lord Baelish saying, I know Lord Baelish, this mode is brutal to watch, LOL. But then you have Christopher on the other side saying, I like it because the games are unpredictable. And I couldn't agree more. Well, honestly, with both of you, because part of it is just like, why can't someone break through? You're used to watching Clash Royale and then pushes like evolve, but that's what we saw at the end of, you know, the last game with Dominic. So I actually really enjoy this mode, and I gotta say, I do love the unpredictability. Oh, wow, what is happening to me today? Unpredictability, and I love that we are seeing decks that you never would see. You would never see this deck at the top of the screen or bottom of the screen in a real competition like CRL. Just in this great competition from RoyaleMSTRS.
Yeah, we're actually seeing both of these players just improve in this one game. Dominic has done several different things as this game has transformed, but really Takuya finally setting up the push that he wanted. Yeah. It has everything to do with the fact that he swapped in the Sparky. This should be the reason why he wins.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic does a good job cleaning that push up. That looked like it was going to be devastating. 11-6-6-6 to 11-0-2-6. Several hundred HP separating the two, as now you can see Takuya getting a bit more aggressive, going E-Giant right there at the bridge, knowing that he's actually down in damage and the spell power won't do it. The E-Giant is working his way there. Will it get there in time? It might actually do it. Does it get a shot? Oh, it's not enough.
Wow, Dominic. Defending out. Oh my goodness, everything coming down the lane. Doesn't have the elixir, but he still does it. Wow, what a defense, Dominic.
Heavy BM coming out from Dominic. 400 HP remaining. Just a couple more seconds is all Takuya needed, but Dominic going to take this in a clean 2-0 sweep as we're halfway through our first 4 matches of the day. And I don't know, Dominic figuring something out with those 3 Musketeers. A lot of defensive prowess and obviously able to then turn into a good offensive push. Saw some fun stuff there from Nicoco going, all right, let me try out this Sparky deck, but just was not going to be enough to deal with Dominic. I mean, you expect him to do well, and he did it, and he did it with a very interesting deck, and he just ran it back twice, you know? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
But not only did he run it back, but his opponent knew that he was going to run it back, so he beat a deck with the deck. I mean, the fact that he won that matchup with that deck really says a lot about his skill level in this game mode, and then just also the fact I really think skill level in this game mode is top tier, especially when you compare it to the first 4 competitors overall.
Yeah, Dominic is a really good player. I mean, he really is. He was at World Finals for a reason last year, and then when you watch him play these games, you know, as you just said, AC, he's playing into a pretty bad matchup at that point. You got Fireball, you got, I think, Bar Barrel, and you've also got the Sparky, right? The Sparky and the Fireball, just those two cards alone are enough. And then the Inferno Dragon is still there to deal with any big beefy units. You got the E-Dragon to maybe reset that Mighty Miner if you have to. You know, the Mini P.E.K.K.A is going to do pretty well against the Cannon Cart and the Barbs. There's just all these things that it felt like Takuya had the correct response to. Even the NATO, just being able to NATO the Musketeers to one side and then drop an E-Giant or a Fireball on top of them. Whatever it was, Dominic was not shying away from just continuing to be very aggressive and playing strong defense. So there you go. So far today, we've seen Three Musketeers have some good success. We've seen E-Giant have a little bit of success, and Nicoco and Dominic moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that the Three Musketeers gameplay, that game number 2, it should not have been possible for him to win. He only had the Mother Witch and the Three Musketeers for air targeting units, and if his opponent had just used the NATO Fireball every time, he would have only had a Mother Witch for an Inferno Dragon and an E-Dragon. So it really shouldn't have been a game.
It's a really great point that you make. When you look at those cards, that's, yeah, how on earth would the Mother Witch be able to do enough if those Three Musketeers were always taken care of, but the Three Musketeers were not prioritized maybe the way that Nicoco needed to, or excuse me, Takuya needed to. And yeah, that's a really great point that you make there, AC. But that's the past. This is the present. Ale World at the top, Lucas at the bottom. Lucas going, hey, Dominic, I like those Three Musketeers. I'm going to try them out also.
Yeah, and hopefully we are. It's kind of really amazing for me to get to see 3M dominance again. So I'm kind of just taking it in right now, these first couple games.
Yeah, you love your Three Musketeers, and they never get much attention, ever. The only thing that ever happens is they come out for one competitive game. We get excited for, at most, maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes, and then it just gets destroyed.
I mean, at this point, you guys probably don't join in on it, but I always think it's going to be different this time. This time, Three Musketeers is going to dominate the entire game, and this time, we're going to start seeing it explode in popularity.
It's that bright-eyed hope that makes us love you so much, AC, because, yeah, you are the only one that thinks it's going to be good. Although in Heist mode, we are seeing that it actually is relevant. And then Lucas doing, you know, a lot of what we've seen. You know, Mighty Miner has been the champion favorite of the day. He's going to take that Three Musketeers idea, whether he had it before the set with Dominic or not. He's going to run it back here. Evoed Barbs, same idea, just pile-ups in both lanes. I still am not sold 100% on the Mighty Miner. And then Lucas did this a lot in the qualifiers today where he ran minions. Minions or minion horde, so those arrows are going to have to pick and choose their targets very carefully.
Yeah, and just that one barb on top of the tower gets Owl World's tower all the way down to 8602. But Luke is putting in a lot of work, and I mean, we've seen with these Three Musketeers decks, you just throw them in the back, and they will defend on the map for you. Like, you will dominate the board for the next 20 seconds when the Three Musketeers get placed down.
Wondering if there's, like, a strategy that is just kind of screaming in the face at us that we're not recognizing with dealing with Three Musketeers now. I mean, maybe you always have to have NATO and E-Giant. I mean, Nicoco wasn't... Nicoco... Wow, I keep saying Nicoco because I'm looking at his name on the screen. Takuya had the right idea, but then was not able to really put it into practice against Dominic, who played that very, very well. Two Musketeers on the tower here for Lucas. Obviously, nothing to help clean up the one on the left-hand side as that Witch cleans up the one on the right. Musketeer on the left gets a few more shots in, all the way down to 47-31, and now Evoed Barbs in front of this Muskie on the left-hand side.
Wow, and I mean, he is just struggling so much with these Three Musketeers. Evoed Barbs on the left side, going to take the tower all the way down, potentially.
That's going to do it. I think that's going to do it. Musketeers on the tower also, so that's an easy 3 crown, or I guess 1 safe for Lucas, who, I mean, I think we're starting to learn, AC. I think we're learning the meta of the day, and the meta of the day is deal with 3 Musketeers. What do you do? Do you start running Lightning? Do you maybe run your own Barbs? Mini P.E.K.K.A did a decent job, but then you start to pile up in front of. What's the way to get through 3 Musketeers, since you are the 3 Musketeers guy?
I think it just has to be NATO and Fireball. I mean, if you have a deck with Inferno Dragon, E-Dragon, NATO, Fireball, and maybe E-Golem or something, since nobody's running big spells, I mean, really, I just think that E-Golem, all of those troops...
E-Golem or E-Giant?
E-Golem, yeah. Specifically
E-Golem,
E-Golem, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the NATO Fireball. I really think that would be deadly, and it wouldn't be able to be stopped.
I like the E-Golem too. I think the ability to have those units break down the higher DPS from all the little blobs is actually not a bad idea. And then since they're still alive, you don't have the princesses or the king to help take them off the board. You can maybe double down and support. Obviously, the only danger that comes with that is giving your opponent too much elixir. But I don't actually think we've seen many moments today where elixir has been the problem. I think it's been more decision-making has been the problem about how you want to defend or where you want to defend, as opposed to just being like, I don't have enough elixir to defend. So I like what you're saying, AC. We'll see if it happens. I never thought I'd say that I'm excited to see Elixir Golem and Inferno and E-Dragon in a competition, but I actually would love to see that. Just like I thought I would love to see the Royal Recruits Royal Hogs, but we only saw that once, and I don't even know if the Hogs were in that deck.
That's right, that's right. Lucas letting his Mighty Miner... Wow, that was an odd interaction. The Mighty Miner finally was going to take out the Firecracker, and then he finally used the arrows, so just odd play right there.
Arrows freeze here from Lucas. I don't hate the freeze. Could be used very well defensively, and then, again, I mean, it should be a broken record here. If you don't have a princess or king to shoot down those small units, who knows? Who knows what a freeze could do as this miner seeking out that witch, taking care of her as she keeps everything at bay here. The prince, the inferno, all of it just distracted by this one witch. So nice value here for Lucas.
Yeah, if Ale World doesn't have arrows, I mean, just this 5 HP witch will be able to take care of everything and force out more of a response. But right there, a really solid freeze, and was defended nicely, but that's going to be dangerous as the game goes on.
I really like Lucas's decision-making on the freeze. Ooh, wow. Skelly's piling up. Mighty Miner's there. Nothing to reset. No NATO to pull back, and that's it. That's it. That's the fastest 2-0 heist we've ever seen.
It's over.
Wow. What just happened? Why? Why did any of those things happen? Like, I feel like in both of those games, our friend Ailworld just got overwhelmed by seeing Lucas's maybe, like, battle banner. I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, even though it's a very interesting mistake, I guess it kind of makes sense because nobody plays this game mode, so it actually does make sense to just forget. Just plain and simple forget.
Yeah, and you're still, like, figuring out your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
You don't know what the actual threat is going to be. So, again, Ailworld, not giving you a hard time here because I would have lost even faster than you. Do not worry. But you look at what he had. For splash damage, he's got the Firecracker, the NATO, and the Witch. And I think after using that NATO, just not enough to... I mean, neither of those cards are going to do enough fast enough against that pileup unless you got the Witch out early on, or if you got the Firecracker evolved and then that poison damage takes out all the skeletons. But then still, you have that Mighty Miner on top of your tower with absolutely no way to reset it. I mean, that's the biggest part of it, is that Mighty Miner's on the tower. There's nothing attacking it. There's no way to reset it. There's no way to distract it. Nothing. So that's the other thing that's starting to come into this is, you know, do you need to have a reset? Do you need to have a zap? Do you need to always save your NATO for stuff like that? I like the freeze because the freeze kind of does all the things that we just talked about. It's a small spell that helps clean up the skeletons over and over. It's great defensively and it's great offensively. So yeah, kind of love the call on freeze.
Yeah, I love Lucas's decks in that set. Like, that was so brilliant, and I have to say I'm such a fan. Andrea's missing the arrows on top of the goblin, so he is forced to come out with the Skarmy as well. But I swear, like, that what Lucas did in that set was just so impressive.
And if you look at the cards, Lucas used 7. Is that right? Yeah, 7 of the same cards in those 2 games. It was the only change-up was freeze for miner, miner for freeze. Otherwise, it was minions, arrows, 3M, skellies, and then witch, Evolved Barbs, and Mighty Miner. So
Wow.
Lucas doing a very small change to get 2 very fast wins as we hop into our final match here in the quarterfinals. It's going to be Andres at the top of your screen, Moha at the bottom. And Moha comes out with what you and I were talking about, man. And he runs into Skarmy, which is not a bad position to be in when you're talking about being able to stack those souls, as one of those souls is still on the tower, as is that king.
Wow, and Minipeka at the bridge just going to come down, and he will have a Skarmy, but if he has the spell power, he's going to be able to get shots on top of the tower.
That's exactly, I mean, that's what we were all thinking, and Andres just didn't have the answers. He needed to have a different response to the mini P.E.K.K.A. He goes with the most obvious option because it's probably the only elixir that he had, and maybe was a little worried about the Skeleton Dragon DPS taking it down in time, but that's a problem. You go to the most obvious option. Moha was baiting it out. If you and I both are recognizing it, he's in a game mode playing for money, he's probably got a spell to clean up that Skarmy.
And right there, tower down to 49.04 with 55 seconds left in the game. Moha, though, getting somewhat aggressive. Instead of just resetting like we've seen with these Three Musketeers players, he's still just going in on offense. So we'll see if that's, you know, the correct way to play it, or if he'll find that he should be setting up the back.
I'd love to see a lava in front. There it is. Lava in front. 2 Musketeers working down on the right-hand side. I don't know if that lava placement is exactly what you want. Would have been nice to maybe get it one more tile over to the left. Not sure, but still making its way through. And a great lightning from Andres. Now, we are seeing nothing but trouble here from Moha as those arrows miss the Spear Goblins.
Wow, the minions plus the Spear Goblins do take out the Skeleton Dragons entirely. But that was an early set of arrows, so these Three Musketeers need to clean it up quickly.
Another little bit of damage coming in, 63-57 to 44-99. Not the cleanest gameplay on either side of the board, but a bit of a reset coming your way. Moha doing more of what you're saying is correct, AC, and building that push from the back, now doubling down at the bridge. Evoed Skellies behind the Skeleton King, doesn't get anything there. Those cards are so sad. I feel like I'm just waiting for the moment where the Evo Skellies take my breath away, but it just doesn't happen. It's like you and Three Musketeers in regular game mode.
Whoa.
All right, sorry. That was a little below the belt. Skeleton and Skeleton Dragons getting good damage in on this King Terror are safe. I don't even know what's happening. Where am I?
Oh,
whoa.
Very nice, nice little lightning for Nick. And that's going to be able to keep 2 of the Musketeers alive, now just one of them after the arrows are used. But Andres has stormed back into the game. He's just attacked and attacked, and he's now in the lead.
8th card coming down is the Balloon. Balloon will not get a drop. No, it will get a drop on tower, and it's going to get the death damage. Gets a 2nd drop plus the death damage. That was a great naked Balloon, and then a Goblin Gang to support, and then this... Did that not get damage on the save? It did, right? I don't know. 627 to 1758. Those lightnings putting in a lot of work. Andres maybe recognizing that Three Musketeers has started to become the win condition on the day, and then looking for a good way to take care of them. Lightning, best way to do it.
Yeah, this is going to be the push. Skeletons on top of the tower with the miners help. 627 to 446. I think he's going to be able to win it.
2nd miner on the tower gets another shot. There it is!
Hey.
627, 13 seconds remain, and Moha ends up coming out on top. That was a fun one.
Moha storming back. It's, you know, a huge lead, a massive deficit, back to huge lead. A crazy come from behind victory from Moha at the very end. And yeah, it came down to cycling the Three Musketeers. I mean, his opponent did a great job of just wiping them off the map every time he was playing it in that one, like, 2-minute period.
And then you talk about the ability to build up those souls. You've got the Skeletons, the Goblin Gang, the Minions on just your side for Moha. And then on the other side, you actually are fortunate enough to run into Goblin Gang and Skarmy. So I agree, there was a couple moments where Moha maybe got a little over-aggressive early on, had to go back to what was working, which is Three Musketeers in the back, but then the lightning started to come in. But the thing is that I feel like the cycle, because, you know, you're going to 4.4 that costs 13 to get around for Andres, going up against a 3.8 that costs 10 to get around. So even though they might be able to lightning one set of them, if you're focusing that Elixir always on just those 3 Musketeers getting spawned, we even saw a block come in. It felt like there was a moment where the overwhelm would happen down the board, right? Because you don't have that spell power that's going to be effective on things like a Skeleton King piling up or a mini P.E.K.K.A plus goblins on one side, whatever it might be. Moha doing a good job of just kind of holding tight, resetting, going back to what was working. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to get over aggressive in this mode, I think. But then, you know, we saw that happen in the last set with Ale World against Lucas, where that over aggression you can really get punished for if they defend well.
Yeah. I mean, there was just, if you do it one time in the first, it's specifically harmful when it's in single Elixir. In other game modes, you know, if you make mistakes in single Elixir, yeah, you can lose the tower sometimes, but usually you can still defend. As long as it's not too egregious. But even here in single Elixir, small, tiny mistakes can be detrimental, and you will just lose your tower.
Speaking of detrimental mistakes, Orange Juice Gaming in the chat. I should have registered. I'm actually a godly heist player. OJ, what are you doing, man? We would have loved to have you here on broadcast. Thanks for hanging out, man. It would have been fun to call your matches. A godly heist player. What if that was a thing? What if OJ was actually just the greatest heist player in history and no one knew it because almost no one ever plays the mode?
Well,
all right, here we go.
And he doesn't sign up. That's at this point, it's on him.
I know. What are you doing, man? Game number 2. Andres top of your screen. Moha at the bottom. Andres changing things up, going to bowler. Moha looking very similar so far, at least with the first 2 cards out. Now we're seeing the golden-haired golden boy come out. Not IMJP, but the Golden Knight.
Moha responding with the minions over the bowler. The Phoenix will be able to clean it up, but will it be in time? It will be, so executioner forced out for Moha.
Rich calling IMJP the golden-haired golden boy was one of my favorite things, but then one of my least favorite things was when I called Mohammed Light the golden-chaired golden boy. No one liked it.
I'll give it to you. I immediately thought that was great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, back to what was working-ish earlier on, and then Moha going to... Oh, okay, kind of respond with the same thing. E-Giant, but a lot of bait cards behind to help support that Skeleton King. And, you know, E-Giant Skeleton King was one of the potential could this works that we were guesstimating about early on in the match, and now we'll find out.
Yeah, and this bowler for Andres, so far, every time it's placed on the map, it's just gotten insane amounts of value, even right there. Able to completely take out the Witch. But, just Moha does not have the right deck to respond to his bowler.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a ton of splash there, and then even something like the Golden Knight is going to bait out, you know, your Skeleton King if you don't have your E-Giant in cycle, and then that Skeleton King is going to have a lot less... it's going to be a lot less of a threat for Andres, because if you're playing it as a tank, you're not going to be able to stack up all those units that you really, really need unless you're just throwing Elixir away. So we'll see how Moha wants to adjust, and as of right now, it's just going to be E-Giants working down that right-hand side.
Both players going in with the E-Giants. 40 seconds left in the game before OT starts. And, I mean, the Evoed Barbs are going to be a focal point for the defense and just the offensive counter pushes. Moha doesn't really... None of his troops are that stackable against Andres' deck.
The other thing that Moha doesn't have really is single target DPS, which is a bit, you know, it's not the worst position to be in because his opponent is piling up a lot. You know, obviously E-Giant pushes and pushes behind this bowler, a lot of splash damage for Moha, but single target DPS is still lacking.
Yes, and the tower, it's taken all the way down to 8390. I actually thought that was going to be a little bit... I just thought it was going to be more damage than it actually was. Moha defended fairly clean for the situation that he was in.
Definitely thought it was going to be a lot worse than we saw. Executioner was able to put in a decent amount of defensive work on that E-Giant, and this is just one of those things where Moha has to figure out the equation to break on through. That Phoenix is doing good work against the minions. Obviously, the arrows are there. Obviously, the Fire Spirit is there to help deal with all of that. The Phoenix, though, with its second life, just keeps putting in a ton of value here for Andres. Whether if it gets taken off the board on his side, it always pops because there's no way to get a spell or a unit on top of it for Moha that isn't just throwing away elixirs. So Phoenix getting a lot of value. We'll see if that continues here as 1 minute remains. Good push here on both sides of the board from our two respective players.
And this is what I was waiting for going in with the bowler. Can it clean everything up? I don't think it will. Yeah, the skeletons do survive getting the tower
Fire
down.
Spirit.
Wow. Well-placed Fire Spirit right there. Absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I thought it was for sure going to miss just one, and one can be devastating. Is this E-Giant just hanging out? You know, that's kind of been the name of the game for Andres, which is just like send an E-Giant down the right-hand lane, support it a very little bit, and then defend on the left. And every single time, he ends up coming out on top because Moha's single-target DPS is just a lot less.
Yeah, Moha just doesn't really have a chance. It's just not enough damage, and Andres has done a really good job of recognizing that and just throwing E-Giants down the lanes and stacking troops. That's all you need to do.
Has been very interesting to look at the end of like these heist modes and the player that's in the lead, maybe with like, you know, up to a minute and a half, 2 minutes remaining. If they're in the lead and they recognize the situation they're in, I mean, they just rinse and repeat. You know, innovating in this game mode is pretty difficult because so much of it can be matchup based, right? If you don't have the right responses, then your opponent can just do the same thing over and over and over again. It's like when you're at like 5k and they just keep pulling MK bats at the bridge and you don't have a spell to deal with the bats or something. It's like, it's almost as frustrating as that at this level because, you know, Moha was doing everything that he possibly could to try to create anything, and Andres was just like, E-Giant at the bridge, defend. E-Giant at the bridge, defend. Rinse and repeat over and over. So we're going to game number 3 in our final quarterfinals match. I think it's good that we're seeing changes in decks, right? So we don't just see the same thing all day, but I still don't actually know what the best option is. It still feels like it's probably 3F.
Yeah, I think you can do more, though. I like the Three Musketeers decks that we've seen, and I feel like the players have actually put it very well. But maybe there's a Three Musketeers Graveyard or Three Musketeers Freeze, because I think we saw that from Lucas in his game number 2. Okay, yeah, so I like the idea of Three Musketeers Freeze, and really, with his game, maybe he had the deck that I'm thinking of, like just one of those crazy decks that incorporates everything, and he just finished the game too fast for me to actually see it. So I'd like to see a lot more decks like Lucas's.
So right now, Lucas, the person that's waiting to see who's going to win this set between Andres and Moha, and then once we finish this set, we're going to take a short break and we'll come back to our semifinals where Nicoco and Dominic will kick things off, and then obviously Lucas against whoever wins this particular set. And then we'll be going into our third place match. I'm saying it right now. We're going into our third place match. So if you do not make it to finals and you are one of our competitors, you need to stick around so that we can get you in that third place match. And then obviously whoever wins those 2 semifinal matches, they'll be battling it out in our finals, but then they will also be returning tomorrow to play in our combined championship. But first, game number 3. Andres, top of your screen. Moha at the bottom.
And split skeletons behind your tower are actually a lot more dangerous in this game mode because one of them will just stay alive.
Well, the witch in the back becomes kind of a fun play. Lightning again. Only 3 elixir to deal with this push. As 2 musketeers pile up on the right-hand side, a battle healer comes down, but that battle healer can do nothing against the Phoenix, who is, as you guys can all see, at 100% HP, and Moha just cycling furiously to get back to any sort of air defense. AC, this is crazy. That Phoenix is it just going to take the safe?
Yeah.
Does Moha only have 3 musketeers?
That's what it looks like.
This is insane.
I mean,
there it is, dude. It's exactly what we said.
Wow. Very terrible situation for Moha. Does not have any responses besides the 3 Musketeers. And I think the Phoenix get 1,000 HP of damage? I think
like
they have
10,000 HP, you mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
literally.
10,000. I think it was 10,000 HP.
I think I have it open here so I can look. I can look. Yeah, like legitimately. It was at 1260 before like this whole thing started, and then that Phoenix just went crazy. 1773, lowest tower on the board, and surprisingly though, 7256, Andres has taken a decent amount of damage from his opponent, who is coming out with Monk. First time we're seeing Monk here today, and Mirror. I am not mad about anything I'm seeing. I love the idea of this deck. It feels like it's just like, get the Monk up front, turn on the ability, and have too many P.E.K.K.A.s behind, and just see what happens.
Yeah, and also the potential for getting multiple sets of 3 Musketeers up I mean, that's incredible, but I think you need an actual small spell if you're going to do that. You need something to take troops off the board, and you cannot allow for situations like Firecrackers to run away or Phoenixes on the tower.
Oh, and that Battle Healer perfectly placed to kite this Phoenix away. That would have been the end of the game for Moha, recognizing that the 3 Musketeers were still a bit away. Evoed Skellies on top of an E-Giant. Is that a real thing? I couldn't tell you. I don't know that interaction, but it doesn't seem like it is.
Yeah, right there. Did not do a lot, especially because... But Andres did spend an arrows on top of that push, so maybe they are really, really effective, now that I think about it.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. with a Musketeer behind, 1249 to 7256. Brunt of the damage done in this game by the Phoenix of Andres, just sneaking away. 3 Musketeers, the only way for Moha to get on top of air, and that has been... It's a really interesting thing because you and I talked about it earlier. It doesn't feel like players have really exploited it much. This was almost like a happy accident for Andres.
Yeah, no kidding. Right here, 1:16 left in the game. Monk not going to pop its ability and be almost taken out. Not completely, though. And Firecracker gets one shot on top of the tower.
Firecracker doing what she always does. Phoenix up high here, just always getting a ton of value on these ground units. There is no way for Moha to do anything about anything in the skies. That's just the craziest thing to me. It feels like there was just a massive oversight in building the deck.
Yes. You just need to be able to cycle a little bit quicker. Is he going to defend? He's technically going to try and defend, but I don't think he's going to do enough.
And a bit of poetic justice there as the Phoenix comes in and takes the safe after putting in 10,000 damage worth of work earlier on. And that's just one of those situations where you run into a battle in the skies when you came with a battle on the ground. Showing up to a gunfight with a knife was Moha here in game number 3. I don't think I've ever seen a Phoenix do so much damage in I guess the amount of time that it's been in the game.
Yeah, that's right. There was at least 2 Phoenixes on the board, and I mean they would last for 55 seconds every time.
Poor Moha just going, I have to cycle all the way back to a 9 Elixir card before I can stop this push. Let's take a look at our bracket as we do say goodbye to Moha. Andres stays alive, moves on. It'll be him going up against Lucas in our second match after we come back from the break. First off will be our semis, Nicoco and Dominic to start things off. But before that, we are going to take a short break. We say goodbye to Mini Minter, Takuya, Ale World, and Moha. Congratulations on making it here. Congratulations on picking up your qualifying money. But it is between these 4 that we will get our standing 2 for tomorrow. And of course, always want to know who the champion's going to be, who walks away with the biggest part of that cash prize today. But we got a lot more Heist to be played. We'll be back in just a little bit. AC and myself will see you right after this break. through our day of Heist. We'll see how much longer these matches take. It's been a lot of fun, and looking here at the chat, we've got people kind of speculating on what to do. How do you win? We see E-Giant Heist is in full effect. E-Giant one side, defend the other, rinse and repeat is another one, and then we also got make an all-air deck with Evo Barbs for ground. Boom, win every game. I don't know, we'll see. So far today, AC and I have been the most impressed by probably the Three Musketeers, and I don't know which competitor has been the most impressive. Would you say Lucas, maybe? I mean, the games were absolutely dominant. It was an insanely fast 2-0, and also the decks were super fun.
Yeah, I think Lucas just has to be your answer. I feel like we should be able to kind of expect that from a player of his caliber.
Yeah.
But really, he just dominated so quickly, and he figured out how to actually play this game mode. He's the only player so far that actually just looks like he practices this game mode. Everybody else, they've done a few things that are really good, but he looks dominant in this.
He really does. I mean, when we saw the changeup of his deck, he ran the same 7 cards. He only swapped out 1 card.
Right,
it was a very interesting swap, right? It was a minor for a freeze, which is usually not when you're like, oh, let me take out 1 card, let me take out the freeze and put in minor. It doesn't really cover its bases, but for Lucas, it did more than enough. Nicoco top your screen, Dominic at the bottom, and now we see a couple very interesting things. We're seeing the Sparky for the 2nd time today. Dominic had no problems with it the very first time, but the Tombstone. I kind of love this play. I mean, Tombstone is one of the unsung heroes of touchdown mode. Actually, I don't even know if it's unsung. I think people know Tombstone is dominant in touchdown mode, but that is not the game mode we are in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Heist, if you're wondering where the towers are.
Bats are going to take out most of the skeleton dragons and all of the skeleton dragons right there. An Inferno Dragon in its last second of lifetime, able to completely take out the Sparky.
So those bats need to be taken care of. Dominic has to use his ability. Pretty annoying, but if you think about it, the miner will work all the way down the board. It may get back around to another ability if Dominic wants, but those bats would have been a lot of trouble. Dominic looking like he could just be going to the skies, you know, classic Lava Hound Loon deck maybe, or, I mean, who knows, maybe Clone? Like, if you ran Lava Clone with Barbs and Skeleton Dragons and something behind, it could be super fun after the pups pop, but we shall see what he wants to bring to play.
Yeah, that would be really interesting for him to potentially use Clone, and I really love it. Like, I think that's a very cool idea. I doubt that's what he's going to do, because I mean, Loon just makes more sense, but Clone feels... It just really makes sense. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's one of those fun, like, gimmicky plays in this mode that could actually work really, really well, but right now, Nicoco with the E-Giant and the Sparky just kind of taking over the board. Good map control, and then for Dominic so far, the biggest problems I think he's seen is dealing with just the bats. So we'll see what his spell is, or if it's always going to be Skeleton Dragons to deal with them.
Wow, and kind of an unlucky interaction for Dominic. All of his Evo'd Barb were taken out by the Inferno Dragon in one go. It didn't retarget to another Barb in order for it to finally take one out. The Inferno Dragon, its beam was able to take out each one individually.
Wow. So that same Inferno Dragon trying to put in work on this Lava Hound, but actually not able to do a whole lot. Gets it down to about maybe a fifth of its HP down, as another Inferno Dragon is on the board. Nicoco has 2 Inferno Dragons and an E-Giant. Meanwhile, it's Dominic who has an Inferno Dragon of his own and a Mighty Miner. That Mighty Miner is untouched, and that Inferno is distracted. So an E-Dragon has to come down right on top, or E-Giant, excuse me.
He misses, oh my goodness, he misses the Electro Giant placement on top of the Mighty Miner, and it doesn't retarget, so he forces out a NATO in response from Nicoco. That was insane, and now the Inferno Dragon is going to get so much value on top of this E-Giant.
And a great fireball came out from Dominic to push that Inferno away, to make sure that Mighty Miner just got a little bit more on top of that tower. E-Giant finally makes its way to the bottom of your screen, and you see Dominic's safe finally taking a little bit of damage, but 6,000-ish HP. In the lead is the man at the bottom of the screen who is setting up another push. Inferno Dragon right down the center. Great placement on that Inferno. Should be close enough to go right over to that E-Giant without having to worry about... Oh no, goes to the other Inferno instead.
Wow, and right there, NATO in order to pretty much nullify the Inferno Dragon. it just depends on which troop it targets at this point. Right there, I mean, Inferno Dragon is going to stay alive and actually still get more value. So even though it looked like a great play at the time, it ends up being pretty poor right there.
Yeah, the double E-Giant stack up here, getting some good damage in. But those E-Giants, it's crazy. Like, you see an E-Giant on your Princess Tower, and it does so much damage. But because of how much health these safes have, honestly, the E-Giant really needs to be hanging out for, like, 30 seconds to have substantial damage.
Yeah, and right there, 36 seconds left. He's going all in, but I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, really, as soon as somebody comments on it, oh, do an all-air deck, and then, you know, you win, that's basically what Dominic does, and he's going to win. He just could not get past his defense.
Shout out to Something who said that, make an all-air deck with Evo Barbs for ground, and you will win every game, and that's basically exactly what Dominic did.
Right there. I mean, almost does not defend the skeleton, but he does just in time, and a very clean until the final 8 seconds left game from Dominic.
I just want to see the Evo'd Skeletons do something crazy, and we almost saw it there. There was a rage that came down, the fireball last second, and Dominic even throws out the wow, because he's like, whoa, that was almost horrible. That would have been my moment. That would have been the moment I've been waiting for, AC, where the Evo Skellies steal a game in the final, 10 seconds, doing like 8,000 damage. That would have been the moment. Yeah,
that would have been gorgeous. I mean, in that moment, of course, you're going to be upset about it, but even Dominic can't get that upset if he loses something as silly as just not putting a spell on top of those skeletons.
Skelly's putting in work, but not going to be enough for Nicoco as we're working on to game number 2 here. Dominic in the lead. And remember, whoever wins this set will be in our combined championship tomorrow. They'll take home the fun prize of either second or first place today. You get the qualifier points from today, and you get the qualifier points for tomorrow. So no matter what, you're going to be walking away with a little bit of money. And I think what we've decided is no matter where you finish, if you are in the top 2 of any day, making it to that combined championship, you're at least walking away with over $1,000, which is pretty cool, considering if you get to play your favorite game mode that never gets played in competitive, and you get to come out and win money with it too, it's pretty fun. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, playing and casting, and we've, at least in my experience that I can think of, I've never had the pleasure of casting a heist tournament.
Yeah, same here. I thoroughly enjoying it, and I really feel like I'm starting to excel in it. Where if I played in my own tournament, I would say I had good odds to win it all. I feel like I've learned a lot from that.
Go follow AC on Twitch. He's going to be going live later today with a heist tournament. That Mighty Miner has a HP left. Needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, we should. Oh my. And I feel like right there, he should have put the tombstone low, potentially, because the skeletons have to walk just an extra few steps. I mean, I feel like he gives up an extra 2,000 HP worth of damage.
Yeah, that sizzle is no joke, as the sizzle of the Inferno takes care of that Mighty Miner on top, as Nicoco has a nice about 2,500 point HP lead. So our friends in the chat, sorry to cut you off, have kind of figured it out, right? They're like E-Giant down one lane, defending the other, and then the other person said go to the skies with Evo'd Barbs. So we got some coaches here in the chat.
Yeah, and right there. I mean, Dominic sticking with what he knows, and really, I feel like that's the strongest one. I think all air basically throwing the Inferno Dragons. I mean, Inferno Dragons are incredibly deadly, and then just, I mean, Evolved Barbs as well. I think those are probably maybe a top 5 card in this game mode for sure.
Dominic again in trouble, going to have to fireball here once the second Inferno comes down. Yeah, he had to wait for the first one to get a good sizzle. Now, just in time is that tombstone, and really making him work for it. Nice NATO there by Nicoco. This is a great push by Nicoco.
Yeah, and finally the Skeleton Dragons take out the Inferno Dragon. I mean, he was having so much trouble with it overall, and really, he's only down, 1,500 HP. It could have been 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, I mean, you know, either of those situations could have been a horrible tower loss situation. And to talk about Nicoco's adjustments, I like seeing the Three Musketeers in this deck. I think it's a great way for him to help deal with his air pushes, especially because the Fireball arrows have to be pulled to take care of a set of Musketeers. A Fireball is not going to be enough, so we'll see how Nicoco wants to make Dominic spend his spell power.
Barb's taking out the E-Giant and should be able to take out the Musketeer as well, but I think they're actually going to get cleaned up in time arrows to help out with everything. And Dominic, I mean, at one point it looked like he wasn't going to be able to defend it, but he actually defends it all fairly cleanly and just has to worry about this Inferno Dragon at this point.
Love that rage there from Nicoco to make Dominic have to spend even more once this Tombstone popped. Rage came down to clean up the Skellies, and that's some really good reaction time on both sides. Dominic being ready for the correct next response, and Nicoco always, like I was saying, just always making him work harder for that extra little bit of defense.
Barbs to take out the Musketeer and walk down the lane. The Bats will all fly back with the Barbs, so the Barbs really won't be a problem. And again, just going in on offense, E-Giant, NATO, everything together, and Profit is the name of the game for Nicoco.
Yeah, and that Mighty Miner retargeted on the Mighty Miner of Nicoco.
Oh.
I think, wow, so arrows come in, and now this is a moment where Nicoco goes, how can I abuse what you have and what you do not have? Well, Bats are going to do a great job against that. Skeleton Dragons come down and clean up.
And he just has no answer for this. These Electro Giants have just gotten so much damage every time. Dominic needs to come out with a push. It has to be right here.
Doubling down on defense here as this Mighty Miner will get some sizzle on the tower. Going to do about 1,000 HP's worth of damage down to 3,069, 73.57 for Nicoco. And 25 seconds remain. We've got probably 2 pushes left in our 2 competitors.
20 seconds left, going in with the lava. Are we going to see the Tombstone low? No, just going in with the Skeleton Dragons. And I just realized he didn't even have balloons, so he just really... I mean, Nicoco defended, and Dominic didn't have a chance, really.
Nicoco did a great job adjusting from game 1 to game 2, right? I mean, it was a very, very small but incredibly impactful decision when you talk about just swapping out some air defense, you know? In game number 1, you look at what Nicoco has, and he's got E-Giant kind of air defense, you know, and then Inferno and Bats, right? Then in game number 2, he goes, okay, what didn't work in game number 1? Well, my Sparky didn't really do anything in game number 1. So then he replaces that with 3 Musketeers, and we find ourselves in a very, very different situation. The other thing about this deck that I think is really cool to point out is it is a 4 elixir cycle. Dominic's is a 4.3, right? So it's a little bit faster, but it's only 8 elixir to get back around, where Dominic's is 14 to get back around, which is why he was able to really punish with those really aggressive pushes right on top of Dominic's save.
Yeah, that is a great call out with the 8 versus 14, because it really did feel like he was 100% ahead the entire game. He kept going in and going in. And really, I mean, it was the NATO's, I mean, the fact that he was using the Tornado to pull all the troops inside just meant that he could repeat that same push over and over again. That Elixir cycle count is the name, is just how he won.
Yeah, I mean, with only a 0.3 difference, that massive 6 elixir change and getting all the way back around is absolutely crazy. And then the other part of it too is because Dominic's deck was so heavy and it cost so much to get around, and Nicoco was making all these tough plays, Dominic leaked 14 elixir where Nicoco only leaked 1.5. So a lot of the numbers coming into this equation in heist mode here, which is, you know, pretty fun. We don't get to talk about those as much at the CRL level anymore, and right here you're seeing the impact of that cycle as we are starting game number 3.
And right there, another deadly NATO in. That's on top of the tower, coming in with the rage as well. And the 1 HP E-Giant, it's not going to be a ton of damage, but it will get multiple swings on top of the tower.
Dominic doing the same thing, having to opt for the late Tombstone for the Skellies cleanup. Down elixir and down in HP, but not a lot. It feels like you see that E-Giant on the tower and you think, man, this is a really bad place to be in. But only a little bit behind is Dominic. 3 Musketeers split in the back.
Well, and here's the thing. Dominic is... I mean, the fact that he repeated the same deck as game number 2, he just didn't have enough offense. This should be not simple for Nicoco, but he shouldn't really have a problem. He should just be able to go E-Giant, 3M, Inferno Dragon cycle.
It's a really good point that you make. No adjustment coming out from Dominic, and yeah, I mean, do you need to make one if you're Nicoco? I don't think so, AC. I think that's a really solid call, and we'll see how this fares. Maybe it's just about how Dominic plays through this. As you can see, Evolved Barbs coming down right on top of those 2 Musketeers, and now you see the Inferno Dragon putting in work just like before.
Yeah, the Inferno Dragon will not be able to take out the Barb individually right there, but then with the help of the 3 Musketeers, those will all die. And look at the tower, the bottom Heist Tower, all the way down to 88-28.
That's why this, I mean, I understand the Mighty Miner, but if you have the Mighty Miner and, I mean, I guess the other part of the Mighty Miner that we haven't given really any respect to is just the Death Bomb and how much work it's been putting in. There it is right there. How effective is that? Cleans up the bats, Inferno on top of Inferno, so maybe that's really more the reason why we're seeing the Mighty Miner.
Right there, 3 Musketeers cycled in the back of Nicoco, Skeleton Dragons from Dominic. Both players trying to reset, but it's always going to be easier to reset when you have 3 Musketeers, so something needs to change from Dominic, and right here, going in with the Lava, that's actually a really good change. He's at least doing something different from before.
Yeah, last game, the Lava didn't come out till almost the very end. And while this Lava is not going to get a lot of damage, it does just kind of change up Nicoco's sequencing. 3M in the back. Is that even a real draw, like, possibility, AC, to just, like, hover Fireball arrows, or not really?
I mean, I think you should be able to, but I don't know. Maybe it's not possible with this game mode, because you can. I think you can do it when they're placed up instead of being behind the King Tower.
And we saw Dominic. I was gonna say we saw him do it the last time, but it just feels like it was only one of like. Oh wow! Inferno on top of the tower. That's it. I mean, he's got to use the bomb to push it. He's got to use the bomb from the Mighty Miner to push, but oh, he uses a Fireball to reset. Okay, all right. I panicked more than he did.
Really, you should be panicking because this game is. I mean, it's over at this point. You had 3 minutes. I mean, you were getting all this damage. You are still getting all this damage, and you have 3 Musketeers, another E-Giant, a Mighty Miner bomb. That's on the board.
And another set of 3M comes down. Now it's for Dominic. It's just like, where do I spend my Elixir? Well, I got to get back on offense. 8,007 is the highest tower on the board. Dominic down by about 4K and some change.
I mean, the entire push taken completely out, and E-Giant again. What a daunting card for Dominic.
Yeah, I really love the adjustment from Nicoco in game number 3 here, and in game number 2. I mean, that's really what it was. I love the adjustment from Nicoco in game number 2. Pulls off the reverse sweep. Nicoco will be there tomorrow for our combined championship. Unfortunately for Dominic, he's going to be falling just a little bit short in Royal Masters Summer Clash Edition, but he will be in our 3rd place match in just a little bit. We're going to go to Andres and Lucas here in a moment, but that was the biggest problem. You saw the great adjustment from Nicoco after game 1. Nicoco goes, all right, I have Sparky that's getting 0 value. What do I do to change that up? Let me swap it out for 3M. And I don't know if Dominic just didn't expect his opponent to run the same deck. I don't really know why he wouldn't have expected that, but 3M plus E-Giant, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing I'm thinking. How could you not expect him to run it back with that deck? You had not shown that you could stop it, so you can't really do those outplay mind games in that scenario. It just has to be, I have to react to this deck because it's so good against my deck.
If you find yourself in a matchup that's like 80-20, you know, you're not going to want to run back the same deck into it. And I do think today, with Heist mode, you have to take into consideration that people have not been changing up their decks very much when it's been super successful. And I don't think that they should. I don't think that we're in a place, at least in this game mode yet, where people are evolving so much on the fly between games that it's like, all right, I need to change this instantly because, you know, all day long we've been deducing what is good and what is not good, trying to figure out what works in heist mode. And it feels like Nicoco has kind of locked all those things in, right? You don't have a big spell, but E-Giant plus NATO plus Rage is the biggest spell that you need. You know, that's all you need. Three Musketeers have been incredibly frustrating to deal with, so why not have them? Because you need some air defense. Inferno Dragon, since the start, since the get-go, has been the best support card today. So it's like all these things. He's just taken all these little nuggets of information and then just created this Frankenstein deck that is doing really, really well. We'll see if it continues to be successful, you know, because hopefully his opponents will make adjustments. But as of right now, I love what we're seeing, especially the bats. It's crazy how much value those bats have been getting.
Yes, yes. I mean, the only way that I've seen people effectively stop them, I mean, here's the thing. Effectively stop them is with the Mighty Miner Bomb, but that's already after the bats have usually gotten like 18 elixir worth of value. So even if you can feel good about the 1-for-2 trade, it's not really a 1-for-2 trade. You've already just lost every troop on the board.
Which is why I like Lucas's draw with freeze, right? Because zap isn't going to be enough sometimes, right? If you just zap something that's on your king tower or your safe and you don't have a unit to drop down instantly, then you're in real trouble, right? It's just a zap, doesn't do anything. You just reset the Inferno and it just gets right back on top of your E-Giant. The freeze allows you to create something in that small bit of that small window of a couple seconds, right? That is something I really, really like about freeze, and it does make sense why zap hasn't been popular. But the idea of being able to stop a sizzle, the sizzle has been serious today. Between the Inferno and the Mighty Miner, they have been probably, you know, if not the two most annoying cards to deal with, they've probably done the most damage other than that one Phoenix that did like, you know, 10k worth of damage.
Yeah, that's certainly the outlier right there, because that Phoenix, I mean, just went to town on top of the safe. And Andres and Lucas both going quicker cycle, although Lucas is using the Sparky variation that that Nicoco used, or who was it? Okay, yeah, that Nicoco used in game number 1.
And I really like this. You know, I think it's okay to go Sparky in game number 1 to see if your opponent is going to go to the skies, because the only person that's really truly just lived in the skies is Dominic, which is, it makes sense, right? He's one of the best Lava Hound players in the world. So I really like Lucas's adjustment to go, all right, I really like what Nicoco did. Let's maybe anticipate that our opponent doesn't go to the skies like Dominic, and let's throw the Sparky back in. So, you know, you mentioned it earlier, but Lucas's deck picking today has been really, really fun. We'll see if it has success here as Andres is going E-Giant, Cannon Cart, Evoed Barbs, Phoenix, picking a lot of the things that have worked today.
Yeah, Sparky will be able to take it completely out. How does he want to respond to this Phoenix? And he gets it down in time. All right. Could have been incredibly dangerous, but not really going to be the case. And Skeletons will come out in order to take care of the egg.
That's the other really cool thing I think about the Phoenix on the other side of the board is just like your opponent, even if they take care of it, they have to spend to get it off the board. It's not going to just be taken out by your Princess Tower, which is really a luxury in normal game mode.
Yeah, I'm loving Heist for the reason where if you have a 1 HP Sparky on the board, you still have to defend it. You have to put the bats down. You have to waste fruit.
The 1 HP has been like the most exciting thing, and it usually is in this game mode. So Evolved Skeletons, they're still trying to make it happen. Don't ever give up, guys. Just keep being you.
Absolutely respect what they are trying to pull off. But it just does not appear like
never
happen.
Yeah. Just the one time where Dominic almost got in trouble is the only time we've seen Evolved Skeletons do any work, but they are the best cycle card in the game, so if it only costs 1 elixir to play them, Evolved, why not try it out? Cannon Cart, 1 HP, needs to be focused on.
Yeah, right there. Solid arrows coming out just in time, and both saves mostly untouched, but Andres has gotten a little bit of damage. Lucas, on the other hand, I mean, he's controlling the board a lot of the time. Like, he will have multiple Inferno Dragons up, but he just can't do anything on offense.
I like that. Timing there on the Sparky, looking for the Evoed Barbs, and then gets the second E-Giant down. So this is where we can see trouble. Andres does have the Elixir to deal with it. Doesn't have the evoed barbs back in cycle, though, so Cannon Cart's going to be the best response, plus this Phoenix. And Cannon Cart going to distract the E-Giant.
Yeah,
now,
this
Mighty
is
Miner.
a scary push. Barbs are going to come down, and that split is actually going to be really nice, but actually a really good offensive NATO. That's massive for Lucas.
That's game. That's game. Lucas is on top of the tower. And then, I mean, that's all you can say in that moment is well played. Very, very well played by Lucas there. He knew the only thing his opponent could do would be splitting the barbs in the middle. I think the only thing that could have actually made that prettier was if he pre-fireballed the barbs, but he didn't need to. He went in with the NATO instead to pull it all together, hoping, I mean, it's really the smarter play, honestly, is NATOing it all together to hope the Sparky splashes on top and the E-Giant will get the splash damage in. And this is why I love Lucas. I mean, it's so funny because, you know, we just did you pick Lucas as one of your people to make it through on your videos or no?
I don't remember. I was talking to somebody about that earlier. I'm not exactly sure.
I didn't pick Lucas. I mentioned him in saying who I thought would be the dark horse person to go through. I almost wonder if Lucas got skipped in our picks for who would make it just because everyone expects him to make it. Like, I really do think he's going to win, like, make it to World Finals, whether it's through a golden ticket or the leaderboard. But I just expected someone else to pick him. So I was like, oh, let me change it up and I'll pick these guys. But when you watch him play, he's doing everything right. He did everything right in King of the Hill earlier this week. He's doing everything right today in terms of picking the best decks, bringing his own decks to play. Okay, let's do it in sequence. Picking his own decks that were really great, and then looking at the meta evolve throughout the day, and then adjusting, and then just the mental game of recognizing, being able to keep track of cycle in heist mode it can be pretty tough, and it seems like Lucas is doing a really, really good job of it. He has had the most dominant wins by far today.
Yeah, all three of his wins so far have been super dominant. And one thing with the thing you were talking about with the dark horse and who we expect to win the golden ticket, for me, Lucas is very similar to Morton, where I expect both of them to go to the World Finals every single time, but I never want to say them for my answers because it just feels like too easy of an answer.
Yes.
Like
yes, exactly.
I want to keep thinking besides just saying, oh, Lucas, because he really is that good. He should be in the World Finals every single year.
100%. 100%. I could not agree more. And Skeleton Barrel comes out. One of my favorite cards in the game, honestly. An unsung hero of the bait decks and the mortar decks that run Skeleton Barrel with other cards. There's a really fun, like, Knight Skeleton Barrel Evolved Firecracker deck that's been pretty cool. But really, we know there's basically only 2 decks that exist on ladder now, and that's just, you know, Firecracker, Hog, EQ, and then RG, and either Lightning or Fireball.
Yeah, and actually, I really want to give a shout out to Andres for him using Skeleton Barrel. That is a cool addition to the deck. He got 800 HP worth of damage for only 3 Elixir, and 800 damage in this game mode is insane.
Yeah, what is happening? What is happening?
Game.
Did he forget that there was a Mighty Miner working down the left-hand side? I don't even... What? Dawson, our producer, what happened? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, maybe a replay.
Yeah, let's actually, yes. If we can do a replay, I would love to do a replay of that game because I'm gonna pull up the cards. Producer is also just as lost as we are. Yeah, you know, you look here at the decks, he used Freeze early on, and then he's got Bowler, Barbs, and Lumberjack, and I think Bowler and Barbs were both working down the right-hand side. So then he only had Lumberjack to deal with the Mighty Miner. I think we do have a replay coming. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Oh, no replay, I'm sorry. Which is fine because it's literally only 24 seconds. Or like 50 seconds. That was nuts. I guess that's what happens when you play all your ground cards.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, no ground cards and no E-Dragon cycle. So the game was just over like that. Wow.
You know what? I was gonna say I have my own replay because I can pull it up on my other screen here. I'm gonna look. Okay, so he plays his Skeleton Barrel E-Dragon, and then Bowler. So we have E-Dragon and Bowler working down the right-hand lane. Damage is coming in from the Skeleton Barrel, right? At the same time, we have the Mighty Miner coming down the left lane, completely unsupported. Then we get the 3M split by Lucas. The freeze comes out from Andre. So there's the other part of it. And then he cycles 5 barbs in the right-hand lane. I think he was trying to split them in front of his heist tower, but they all went to the right. So then he has no elixir and then has to drop the Lumberjack late. But the Musketeer gets on the Lumberjack. So it was literally this horrible sequence where everything went wrong for Andres and everything went right for Lucas.
Yeah, I never thought about it, but I mean, you would absolutely need to split your barbs if you are defending a Mighty Miner in single elixir, because you can't let it use its ability and then get to the tower anyways. So that makes sense. And you're saying he just missed.
I think he just misclicked it, or maybe I don't know. I really don't know.
Wow.
Because I think if you try to like think about the logic behind it, there's no logic in placing it on the right-hand side if your opponent hasn't used the ability yet, because he has a Musketeer behind. So there's no reason to use the ability until some sort of defensive threat comes in. So It feels like he probably would have wanted to split. And then you can't surround the Musketeer, because if you surround the Musketeer, then the Mighty Miner uses the ability, it goes the other lane. So yeah, I mean, it's the second time today, I think, where Lucas has won a game within a minute because his opponent has just cycled the wrong things in the wrong place. That's heist mode for you.
Yeah, that's heist mode. It's really cool how good the Mighty Miner is in single elixir and heist. I mean, it just dominates early games because of its ability. I mean, really, if the game was properly balanced for every single game mode, the ability for the Mighty Miner would have to be 2 elixir. Like, it is so strong in this game mode.
So here is our third place matchup between Dominic and Andres. Andres having to come right back in it after a very fast set between Lucas. I mean, honestly, Lucas is making our broadcast time be very similar to the rest of the week just because of his matches alone. His 4 matches, or excuse me, his 4 games, his 2 matches have taken maybe a combined 5 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's actually insane. And his decks are always prepared too. So we're not waiting for him whatsoever.
Lucas and Nicoco will be there tomorrow in our combined championship to join the other 6 players that have already made their way through. Dominic and Andres just playing for fun, playing for cash right now.
And so, since we've already seen the fireball and the arrows, it is likely that he doesn't also have a tornado. So these Inferno Dragons, if they're placed off to the side correctly, will be able to dominate the E-Giant throughout the game.
2 Infernos on the board here for Dominic. An adjustment, as you guys see, that he's got 3M in his deck this time, not just going to go straight to the skies.
Wow.
And Dominic calls the good luck. He gets bait cards up front and then 3 Infernos down. E-Giant has to come out, but not Elixir in the tank, so Andres has to play something. And this is just Dominic's understanding of the macro. And Andres has just lost 3 games in the matter of, again, I think 5 minutes.
That is hilarious gameplay from Dominic. Immediately understands his opponent doesn't have the Elixir for the Electro Giant, and he just has no cards to stop it either. That is awesome from Dominic. That is so aware.
Yeah, that was really, really well played. I mean, he just goes, all right, Inferno, Inferno, Inferno. Literally 3 Infernos and a Mighty Miner is all it took there at the very end. And I also really like the play of just the Bat Skellies, because they have to be paid attention to, right?
Yeah.
Normally, cycling bats and skeletons is just like, what are you doing? You just wasted 3 elixir. But they have to be paid attention to. And the pressure, yeah, that was all just wonderful. I think the elixir recognition was the biggest thing going. If I play a 3rd Inferno Dragon here, you're not back around to E-Giant, so you have to play 1 card, and then that 1 card is going to cost too much. So you have to play 2 4 elixir cards instead of 1 6 elixir card. And just cool. I mean, I love this. I actually love heist mode.
I mean, it's certainly turning me. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm loving casting it. I mean, this and what was yesterday's game mode?
Yesterday was Sudden Death.
Sudden Death?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am a full believer in both of these game modes now because of this system. I love both Heist and Sudden Death.
I mean, you know, obviously we're very happy to be working for them, and there's a little bit of a bias, but RoyaleMSTRS is, I've been saying this for a while, they've been putting on the best community events for a few years now. Even if it was just because of their duel mode, which we love, which will be coming back when they have a competition later on this year. But then this, like, we don't get enough of this. Now, I understand that there's other leagues that did like 2v2 this year, which I think is really cool, but this has just been very different. Being able to cast sudden death matches back-to-back with heist matches has been some of the most fun I've had in a while.
Yeah, 100% agree. Really quite enjoy it. And Andres will be able to clean up the witch, as well as most of the mighty miner. The bomb explodes not on top of the bats, though, so still running around the map. Needs to respond to it, and he will respond with the Inferno Dragon.
Other thing to take note of here is Dominic does not have the evolved skeletons, so maybe evolved barbarians could come down, and there they are.
Barbs will clean up a lot, but I mean, not everything. This witch is just staying completely alive, and it's gonna take out the Inferno Dragon as well. Dominic is struggling against the witch.
Lord Baelish in the chat here, a name that we mentioned earlier today on the broadcast, and also a name that I've seen for a long time. Even used to come back in when I streamed. I don't know if he popped into your streams when you were streaming. Probably did. But he says, to be honest, I can't stand heist gameplay, but I must watch because I love everything, or I watch everything that's CR. And then he says, Sudden Death is cool. RoyaleMSTRS does put on the best shows for CR big time. Love RoyaleMSTRS. Might not be a heist fan, but I truly appreciate RoyaleMSTRS doing this. Big shout out to you, Lord Baelish. Thanks for being here. We appreciate them as well. And it's fun to see the best players in the world change things up a little bit. I love CRL, I love dual mode, but it's nice to get a little bit of change as we are heading to 40 seconds remaining here in regulation. AC, catch us up on the action. How, you said Dominic's been struggling to keep up with the witches here from Andres, but both towers pretty close.
Yeah, that's right. But throughout the first couple minutes, he was definitely dominating the map because of the way... I'm trying to see... Wait, is this an exact mirror match? Or no, Andres has the bats, and what does Dominic have? He has the miner. Yeah, so basically Andres, he's just dominating the bridge battles, and it's because of the bats. It's not necessarily the witch, but it's just a combination of everything.
I was just going to say that, yeah, the combination of the witch plus the bats make it really difficult for Dominic to know where to use his spell power.
Wow, this Mighty Miner needs to use its bomb, and that's what is going to happen.
Still a good pile
push from Dominic, yeah.
5 Elixir for Andres to deal with it. He goes right on top, and I think Dominic recognizes that's it. Dominic, always a fan of the BM.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how this happened. Just, I mean, he wins. How do you get that kind of advantage?
It's tough, man. You look at the way Dominic played this final set, and it feels like if he would have just adjusted game number 2 in that last set against Nicoco, he might be in the finals instead, but instead he's going to walk away with a 3rd place prize, some cash, and Andres runs into a very, very hard 4-game out. But hey, Andres, think of it this way. You just went up against 2 of the best players in the world, 2 players that were just at World Finals that walked away with a ton of cash, and honestly, would be shocked if neither of them made it, and I wouldn't be shocked if both of them made it to World Finals. So, Andres, was a tough 4 games, but congratulations to you on 4th place. Congratulations to Dominic on 3rd. Very, very dominant set by Dominic.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy that we saw him dominate this set, and then last set, we were pretty disappointed because of the fact that he didn't switch up his decks. So, I mean, he really adjusted, and so you have to give major props for that. That recent set we just saw from him was fantastic. He put it all together right there.
Yeah, and I love that he changed up decks. I love the adjustments on the fly. Let's take a look at the competitors that have already made it through to see who Nicoco and Lucas will be joining. Some big names in the space. I mean, really huge names. You got Lucas, Nicoco from today, obviously. Kamagod, who did great work yesterday on Sudden Death. And then Pedro, our golden ticket holder. Tribes, Wallace, another person who would be very surprised to not see at World Finals. Adnan, who has been one of the best players in the game for years. It just doesn't always seem to go right over. Like, the skill set doesn't seem to translate to CRL exactly, but I'm still holding out for him. Over, who had a great first day, and then Momo, the GOAT, who took that first place prize on day number 1 in Triple Elixir. We have our 8 set for our combined championship tomorrow. Remember, it's going to be best of 3s all the way through, playing our fun, different game modes, and then the championship will be a best of 5 with mirror mode being the 5th match if we get there, or the 5th game if we get there. The other 4 will be in sequence of what we've done in the tournament: Triple Elixir, Triple Draft, Sudden Death, and Heist. Speaking of Heist, we got one more match left. Lucas versus Nicoco. I feel like Lucas is the pretty heavy favorite in this. He hasn't even seemed to stumble for a moment today.
Yeah, only 2 of his games have gone to overtime. He's only played 4 games total. The games that have gone to overtime, he's still dominated. I mean, Lucas is the heavy favorite. And Nicoco on the other side, he has shown good gameplay. He has shown willingness to make adjustments. But he also got here because his opponents helped out with it. They didn't make the adjustment. So Lucas definitely has to be the heavy favorite just because he's set up his own success.
And AC, enjoy it while you can. This is the final game of Heist, so 3 Musketeers, who knows when you're going to see him again. I guess you'll probably see him again tomorrow in Heist mode.
Right, there we go. I'll get one last goodbye tomorrow with my 3 Musketeers.
E-Spirit, that's smart. I like that. I really like that play from Lucas. I know it's so small, but with how good Skellies and Bats and Witches have been today, that E-Spirit is a wonderful, wonderful card.
Also, this is going to be a pretty decent push, having to... Oh my goodness, the
Wow!
Skeletons were poorly
That's game.
timed from Nicoco.
Oh, the E-Drag.
All right, not going to be a real problem. Still going to get a decent chunk of damage, though. We'll just see it chip away slowly but surely.
That was a really, really nice play by Lucas. Just slow playing that Mighty Miner ability with the Bats already on the board, waiting to see if his opponent's going to drop anything else. Skeletons come down. Perfect 3-for-1 trade and good tower damage. Baits out the E-Dragons. So all things going correct for Lucas, who's already up about 8,000 HP with only 1:30 played.
Yeah, what a start from Lucas right there. Cycles the Witch on the right lane, and Evo to Barbs just directly on top. And you were talking about it. You got very excited before I even really recognized what was placed on the board. But the fact that he put in the E-Spirit is a great adjustment.
Yeah, it's so good. It does all of the things that have been a problem today, other than the Phoenix on tower. But even the Phoenix on tower, you could have maybe reset a little sooner. But talk about the Bats, you talk about resetting the Mighty Miners and the Infernos, the Skeletons, all of it. So really, really nice pull there with Lucas on the E-Spirit. 1 Elixir card can change everything. Although it's really been more about the story of Lucas's great gameplay and timing with his Mighty Miners. So we'll see if Nicoco can bounce back right now with 45 seconds remaining in regulation.
Slightly messes up the E-Spirit interaction. Not going to get the chain, and so the E-Drag will stay alive. Witch in the pack once again, though, and that's all you have to do. It doesn't matter what mistakes you have made before it. It doesn't matter because the Witch will save you.
E-Dragon gets taken out by that E-Spirit, which is good for Lucas, as that E-Dragon was starting to become problems. And AC, you hit the nail on the head. The Witch has been such a great defensive card because so many things have been single target DPS that the Witch is just keeping them all locked down. And Lucas has a massive push coming down this right-hand lane.
Yeah, and even the left lane, he's going to be able to protect 2 of the Barbs, and the Electro Dragon doesn't go back. So now, okay, there you go. Electro Dragon, with the help of the Skeletons, will take those out, but not before they get the save down to 1963.
Yeah, I think 4 shots in total maybe came in from those E-Barbs, or those Evoed Barbs, I should say. And then a cycled E-Spirit, going to get on top of tower. It's small, but it is something.
Miner going in on the back of the safe tower, Witch spawning skeletons with the help of the Zappy. This could be the game, but I don't think so. He will be able to clean it up with the evoked skeletons of his own.
And Witch finally gets cleaned up by that E-Dragon. All that being said, Lucas has done a great job defending, up by 10,000 HP. And Nicoco now just trying to find any way to create offense. And I think, honestly, for Nicoco, I think the answer is maybe you got to change decks up a little bit. You cannot run this back again.
Yeah, Lucas has been making too many adjustments in general from this tournament for you to really even consider using this deck in game number 1. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Nicoco didn't have an analyst for this competition, and like that could be the reason why Lucas is going to win, because he is such a smart player when it comes to these kind of deck choices.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. He is incredibly intelligent when it comes to building decks around things like this, and then you add the playstyle there. Probably going to get a Mighty Miner ability up top on the screen. There it is, down to 126, and then some more sizzle on top, and Lucas has just been untouchable today. It has, I think this is maybe the most dominant we've seen anyone through this entire run of Summer Clash.
Yeah,
maybe Mo on day 1, maybe?
I personally, I don't believe so. Especially if Lucas gets the 2-0 right here, that would be, I mean, just absolute domination to a level that I haven't seen in a long time. Like, I mean, Muhammad Light hasn't gotten a perfect month yet, and so the fact, I mean,
I know
if he goes 6-0, that's a perfect month or day technically, and Lucas would get the honors of impressing me the most.
Yeah, Lucas has been really, really good throughout this. I mean, you said it earlier that it feels like he's actually been practicing this game mode, which I can't imagine he is, but he does seem to just understand it better than others, and he's able to take these small things that he's learned along the way and implement them better than other players have. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, I really think if you go back and look, I don't think E-Spirit has been played once today, which is crazy to think about, right? I don't think it has, but with how much impact the Skeletons, the Witch Skellies, and the Bats have had, and then, of course, the 2 Sizzles from the Inferno and the Mighty Miner, it just feels like such an obvious pull. But, you know, Heist is it's a game mode people don't play a lot, whereas it does feel like this is just like a game mode built for Lucas.
Yeah. I mean, the E-Spirit is a weird card because you don't really want cards that are going to take themselves off the map, because that's, you know, one less thing your opponent has to worry about. But the E-Spirit just makes sense, and it really is just the Inferno Dragon and the Bats that you have to worry about. But we've seen the Bats get 10 plus Elixir worth of value. We've seen the Inferno Dragons just stay on the board, and one E-Spirit would have changed that interaction. So it's shocking that it took this long, but great adjustment from Lucas.
The other thing that Lucas has done really well today is when he has been going up against Witch, and I don't think it's happened too often, but I did notice it earlier when he was going up against Witch. He did a really good job of freezing the Witch to take care of the Skeletons, and then his Mighty Miner would take care of stuff. So it's also the decision-making on how he's like attacking these support cards that has made what he's doing really, really effective. You know, that freeze was really only used to just clean up Skeletons, and it became a big, big problem for his opponents. So about to hop into game number 2 here in our championship of Summer Clash. Remember, we will be back tomorrow for our combined championship, and we'll be back later this month for our King of the Hill, as you guys see right there. Tomorrow, combined championship. Wednesday, July 26th, which Lucas just won our last one, is our King of the Hill. This is obviously Royale Masters Summer Clash. You can register right now at royale.masters.gg. And of course, at the bottom of your screen, go and join the Discord. The Discord is the best place to find all the information. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter and YouTube.
All right, Firecracker used by Lucas, so we're going to wait to see what the rest of his deck is, but I've been kind of waiting for the Firecracker as well, and great interaction knowledge right there, keeping the Firecracker fully healthy and only 1 Musketeer left on the board.
That's exactly what that was, just phenomenal interaction recognition, although that was not. Skeletons get taken out, so a Witch has to come down. She cleans up the Bats and the Musketeer. Not bad, though, for Lucas. 1 Elixir. Now we'll just call it even an Elixir with a Witch and an Inferno on the board.
That was almost perfect interaction from Lucas. Like, almost. I really loved that he tried it, but I gotta say, I'm not shocked it didn't work out.
Yeah, Musketeer. It looked like he waited for the Musketeer to lock on top and then drop the Skellies, but for some reason maybe one of them pushed her. She retargeted.
Yeah, it was a little push, and that was enough to ruin the entire interaction.
So now Lucas has shied away from Firecracker all day, and Nicoco's going, great. Now you run Firecracker the one time when I don't have a good way to take care of it. Most likely the last card for Nicoco is going to be Tornado. So those Firecrackers are going to be very annoying.
Yeah, and right there, that's going to push himself away, but the skeleton will come down in time. Mighty Miner activating its ability, and he's going to walk back. If Lucas just wastes an extra 1/10 of a second, that Mighty Miner would have, it would have gone to the tower.
So a NATO used here offensively by Nicoco means that Lucas can maybe get a little bit of damage on top. 10-66 to 11-25, and a mirror comes out from Lucas, pulling out all the stops here in what is potentially his final game of the day.
Yeah, this is so deadly. The Firecrackers plus the mirrors plus the miners on top of the tower. But he doesn't have a single spell. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Going all true.
That's the thing with the Firecracker, right? She can be a spell if you're able to keep her alive long enough. And I think for Nicoco, he's just really wishing he had a set of arrows. These Firecrackers completely controlling the board. And, that Firecracker range definitely beats that Musketeer range. And right now, Nicoco is feeling it.
Yeah, these Firecrackers are putting in so much work. E-Giant on the right side, but he's just going to activate his ability with the Mighty Miner. So a deadly push coming in on the left for Luke.
And I love that late E-Spirit. Look at it, just hunting in the back, looking for bats, looking for skeletons. Nicoco going, I can't play either of those. Now another E-Spirit comes down, and Lucas is going to be our Heist champion. I can't imagine that Nicoco turns this around. Those Firecrackers, like, what? That was insane.
Hey, Luke is absolutely dominating this set and this tournament overall. That was a beautiful day of Clash from Lucas. Wow, that was an impressive run.
No notes, as they say. Absolutely no notes from Lucas. 2-0 over AL World, 2-0 over Andres, and then 2-0 over Nicoco, and keeping us down to a 2-hour, 15-ish minute broadcast. Thank you, Lucas, for dominating every single one of your sets.
All around.
Yeah, that was incredible, man. I didn't know that I was going to have as much fun casting Heist as I did today, and I didn't know I was going to learn as much about Heist as I did today. Lucas just teaching all the lessons, AC.
Yeah, walking away with the prize money plus the entrance to tomorrow's competition, plus he got to showcase his abilities. I really think he was waiting for this tournament. Like, every day for the last 4 years, he's probably been waking up and hoping that somebody was announcing a Heist tournament, and he finally got to do it today. I'm just so proud of him.
So tomorrow is a really exciting day because you have all the players that have come through, the 2 players from each of our respective formats. They are all going to have an advantage, right? You would think that if they won their day, they would be the best in that mode. So Muhammad Light and Over having the advantage in triple Elixir, Adnan and Wallace in triple draft, Pedro and Kamagod in sudden death, and Nicoco and Lucas being the dominant forces in Heist. That will be tomorrow, same time, same place for our combined championship. Best of 3, single elimination all the way through until we get to our championship matchup, which, if it does go the distance, will be a best of 5, going exactly in the order of the game modes that were played. And here we go. Here's the path that our players went on. AC, talk us through it.
That's right. In round number 1, we saw a mix of 2-0s and 2-1s, but nobody really had their footing just yet. But the second round, that's when Lucas really started to showcase his skills, going 2-0 against Andres. Nicoco 2-1 over Dominic. Dominic couldn't make the adjustments, and Lucas again with another 2-0, dominating Nicoco and becoming the champion overall. Dominic with the 3rd place finish. Really, the top 3, Dominic, Nicoco, and Lucas, they they knew what they were doing. Everybody else, there was a lot of mistakes. I mean, mixed with a lot of great plays, but I felt like our top three just dominated start to finish.
I couldn't agree more. And I really do I wish that we could see the alternate universe in which, you know, Dominic changes his deck and then we see what happens in that game 3, right? Still could have been Nicoco, could be the exact same results we have now, but it would have just been a little bit more competitive had he not just ran into that brick wall again. So congratulations to Nicoco, congratulations to Lucas and the other 6 players that have made it on through. Dominic for picking up some cash today. It's been a ton of fun. And if you guys are just joining us on the last day, this is the only time where we can say you can't be here tomorrow because you didn't already qualify, you didn't already get in those top 2. But you guys should be following along with everything Royale Masters. They have a ton of events they run all year long, ton of great different formats, and of course AC and myself will probably be there casting them along the way with you guys. AC, is there anything that you want to say before we say goodbye and come back for our championship tomorrow?
Man, I really got to start preparing for these kind of questions because I just have absolutely nothing. I guess I want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed Heist and Sudden Death way more than I expected. Both of those game modes are so enjoyable to talk over because it really is just so fresh. It was a lot of fun seeing all the different decks that were brought.
I know, I was a little nervous today. I was like, I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know how long it's going to... Am I going to sound stupid? I mean, I probably did. I always do that.
Well, I didn't even know that a miner could go behind the safe. So, like, I started off poorly.
We're really learning along the day, evolving just as our players did. So we will be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is our starting time for our combined championship on Sunday. A lot of cash to be given away. It's been $20,000 in this entire run. We do not want to miss you tomorrow. So for myself, AC, everyone at Royale Masters, our good producer Dawson, and of course Tasty Bacon, who's been running all of these events, we appreciate you guys, and we will see all of you here tomorrow for our championship.